pull up the YouTube chat here. Just heard myself in the chat. Good sign. Welcome to the Stokastic MLB Deeper Dive. I'm your host, Neil Orfield. You can find me on Twitter at PlayerQDFS. I'm here with Adam Scherer. You can find him on Twitter at ShipMyMoneyDFS. And this show is sponsored by OddsShopper, which gives you the edge you need betting player props and game lines across all sports. While you're coming in, please give us a like and subscribe so you can keep up with all of our shows, DFS offers, giveaways, and much more. And also so we can get to 80,000 subscribers. Trying to get there this week. We're pretty close right now. Once you subscribe, hit that notification button to get alerts when our shows go live. Be sure to also check out today's free premium tools and data, which are MLB ownership projections and PGA ownership projections. Don't forget that everything we have to offer for MLB night slates on DraftKings is also 100% free for the remainder of the season, which gives you a great chance to give our tools a shot before purchasing. Just click the DK Night Owl link below to check out tonight's tools and projections. Adam, how are you doing today?
Doing pretty well. Looking forward to talking about this slate again. It's changed a bit since this morning. We've gotten some lineups that are really, really bad on teams that I was interested in this morning. So I think it'll be fun to go through it again.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm kind of ignorant about all these hurricanes that are going on. It sounds like they're just mostly like in Florida right now. Are you at any risk of the hurricanes getting up to you in Baltimore?
No, I mean, I don't know what track it's supposed to take. Like normally we'll end up getting like at worst we'll get like a tropical storm and it'll just rain a lot. But I'm not sure about this one in particular, but yeah, absolutely blasting Florida from what I've seen.
Okay. Good to see Shoe Nice back in the chat after pretty interesting discussions from him yesterday. We'll see how that goes today. Hopefully he's a little bit less wild today. All right, let's jump right.
I've never seen that name before.
Yeah, he was just in the chat yesterday, and I was just there briefly, and it got pretty weird. Couldn't follow a lot of the thought processes. Some of it seemed to be relevant to what we were talking about. A lot of it did not. Fun times. Do you have any general thoughts you want to share about this game about this slate before we get started going game by game?
There's a lot of good pitching, and a lot of it's in pretty difficult matchups. So I think that makes for kind of an interesting tournament slate because there's Aaron Knoll, I think, is the clear number one pitcher, has a good matchup, is one of the best pitchers on the slate anyway. But then most of the other guys that would compete with him are in difficult spots. So I think that kind of just makes for an interesting tournament slate.
Okay. I see Eric already jumped in and decided to just right away block out Shoe Nice. So Eric coming back with a vengeance from his time off. All right, let's jump in.
I heard some crazy things about him and Greg.
I heard a lot of crazy things about Eric and Greg as well. I'm looking forward to hearing them clarify on the show later, hear about the party they had. Sounds like they had a good time, but I want to hear a little bit more there.
Yeah, I don't know how much clarification is needed. Greg was pretty straightforward about what Eric wanted.
Greg was pretty explicit about exactly what happened at the party. I just want to hear, if Greg enjoyed himself, really. I want to hear from Greg more so than Eric.
Yeah, for sure.
Because Eric set the whole thing up. All right, let's jump in. Braves at Nationals, the first game of the night. We've got a 12 gamer here, so this is we're going to go kind of fast through these games. But the first game of the night, the Braves have a 5.1 run implied total, which is the highest on the slate. The Nationals are at 3.6. Jake Odorizzi on the mound for Atlanta, Josiah Gray for the Nationals. Let's start with the pitchers. How much interest, if any, do you have in Jake Odorizzi or Josiah Gray?
Not too much. I think Odorizzi at 5,400 is kind of comparable to what we had with German Marquez yesterday, where he's clearly underpriced at 5,400. He's not anything special as a pitcher. His strikeout rate is down this year. He's only striking out 18.9% of hitters, 4.66 xFIP, but he does have a decent matchup against the Nats. If you have to pay down for pitcher, I think he's towards or probably at the top of the list as far as those guys go, but I don't think you're going to have to do it all that frequently on this slate either. We have him projected for 7 to 8% ownership. I have him being optimal 7 to 8% of the time. Kind of just seems like he probably lands in 5 to 10% of lineups where he's necessary, but other than that, I don't think you should be going out of your way to get to him. And then on the other side with Josiah Gray, there is strikeout upside here. He's a good strikeout pitcher. He's been better against righties this year, which isn't surprising. But this is a brutal matchup against the Braves. So outside of just large field tournaments where you kind of plug him in and pray in a lineup here or there, I don't really want to get to him. It's just somebody that's allowed 2.3 home runs per 9 this year, facing a team that has the amount of power the Braves do. It just sets up as a nightmare.
Okay. We'll talk about the bats, but first, Eric Traub, thank you for the super chat. Eric Traub super chat saying, expressing, I think, the excitement we all have about Eric and Greg being back going tip to tip today. So thank you. Thank you for the super chat, Eric. And, I think they might even show you if you give them enough money going tip to tip. All right, let's jump in and talk about the bats then. The Braves, you don't want to be playing Josiah Gray, even though he's a pretty talented pitcher. Are you going to target Braves bats either as stacks or one-offs here up against him?
Yeah, and they're getting plenty of ownership, but I think it's deserved. This is just a really high upside spot. Gray has probably run a little bit bad in terms of power so far this year. If you look at his expected ISO numbers, he's allowed a 198 actual ISO to righties with a 154 expected ISO. He's allowed a 332 actual ISO to lefties with a 266 expected ISO. But even if you just take those expected numbers against lefties, that is absolutely awful. And you're going up against Matt Olson, Michael Harris, and others. Obviously Rosario looks good. Robbie Grossman doesn't have a ton of power, but he'll be hitting from the left side. But Olson and Harris in particular, I think are just two of the top plays on the slate. They look fantastic. But you're not going to avoid guys like Acuna, Swanson, Riley, d'Arnaud. Like they all have power too. And it's not like Gray's been lights out against righties. He's just been much better than against lefties because it would be really hard to be worse.
Yeah, and I suppose if they knock him out of the game early enough, then the splits don't really matter for those other guys either. So yeah, the Braves highest, as we said, highest implied team total on the slate, so they're going to look pretty interesting. What about the other side? Are you going to be playing any Nationals in this matchup with their 3.6 run implied total?
Yeah, so I have another crunch running right now with updated lineups, but in the one that I did this afternoon, I was actually over the field on the Nats, and it's not that I think they're particularly good, and I don't think Odorizzi's particularly bad. He's done a decent job limiting power this year, about 1.2 home runs per 9, but he's only allowed a 127 expected ISO to lefties, 159 to righties. But the Nats just aren't getting much ownership, and they are cheap. CJ Abrams batting second again, $2,200 at shortstop, which we know is typically a pretty weak position to fill. He's a very highly regarded prospect, so that's just a really favorable price tag. You have Lane Thomas for cheap. You have Luke Voigt for cheap. Joey Meneses is priced up, but he has plenty of power as well. So at very little ownership, I have some interest in the Nats, more so just because they're cheap. They can help me fill out lineups in contrarian ways, more so than that I'm actually confident in them because they're not a very good offense.
Yeah, that it bears out in the top stacks tool. 2.6% projected ownership for the Nat stack, 6.4% chance of being the top point per dollar stack on the board. So that is not bad odds. Anything else you want to say about this game before we move on?
No.
All right, let's move on then. Yankees at Blue Jays. The Yankees with a 4.2 run implied total. Blue Jays at 3.8. Garrett Cole on the mound for the Yankees. Mitch White going for the Blue Jays. We'll start with the pitchers again. How much interest do you have, if any, in Mitch White? And then what is your interest level in Garrett Cole tonight?
So in Mitch White, the case that you would make is that the Yankees are one of the teams running a very watered down lineup out there. They clinched the division yesterday. So as a result, you're missing most of your regulars. Aaron Judge is in there, home run chasing. Josh Donaldson's in there, but no Stanton, no Rizzo, no Torres, a really, really watered down lineup for the Yankees. You still don't get a ton of strikeout upside with Mitch White as a starter this year. He's only struck out 17.7% of hitters, has a 4.4 xFIP. He's 7K. Kind of just, to me, looks like a guy that I'm probably not really going to get to. On the other side with Garrett Cole, it's a difficult matchup against the Blue Jays. It's also a difficult park to pitch in, but there's still massive upside for him. He has the highest strikeout percentage on the slate at 32.6%, 2.79 xFIP, also the best on the slate. His ownership has come up since this morning. When Josh and I did the morning show, he was projected for like 15 or 16% ownership. Now he's up to 24%. I think that's more in line with where I would expect to get to. At 16%, I thought he was under-owned. At 24%, it kind of just seems like probably around where I come in at.
Okay. Yeah, I think we did this show last week and we were talking about Aaron Judge's 60th home run ball. He has not hit another home run in the week since then. Maybe freezing up a little, or are they just walking him? Have you been paying attention to that?
They're walking him a lot.
They're just walking him too much so we can't. Well, that's unfortunate. They should just be required to pitch to him.
Yeah, it's a lot of well, part of it too is like right now at least they're playing the Blue Jays. These are must-win or very important games for the Blue Jays. So like it's not even, I think they're necessarily like the pitchers are like, I'm not going to be the one to give it up, but like the Blue Jays are just pitching around them a lot because
it's a smart decision from a baseball perspective.
Yeah.
All right. I guess that makes sense. So with that in mind, with the Yankees running out a watered down lineup, but some of their better players still in there, are you going to be going to any Yankees?
I think they kind of look okay. This is similar but worse, but similar to what we were seeing when like Rizzo was out and Bader was out. And it's like, well, we don't have the guys that I want to roster, but we do have a bunch of just like 2 to 3K priced guys now throughout this lineup. Obviously, Aaron Judge is fantastic at 6,300, and it just becomes really easy to get him in stacks when you have a 2K flat cleanup hitter at shortstop in Peraza. You have Cabrera hitting second at 3K. Bader's in there hitting fifth at 2,800. So it's not normally when you talk about the Yankees, it's like, oh, well, this is one of the highest upside offenses, and I'm willing to try and pay a premium for them. Now it's more so this is one of the best value spots, I think, in a good park against White. He has done a good job limiting power this year, but I think from a value standpoint, the Yankees do look pretty good. Right now, we have them with a 9% chance of being the top value stack, 8% projected ownership, 4% chance of being the top stack.
Okay. Yeah, they look kind of interesting, but not the usual Yankees, not the usual reason you go to the Yankees. What about Toronto on the other side? Any interest in going up against Garrett Cole?
Very little. He has been home run prone this year, and this is a park that will play up power. He's been more home run prone against lefties, which has been the theme for most of his career. You don't really have left-handed power in this lineup. The only lefties in there are Tapia hitting sixth and Bradley hitting ninth, and those are not power hitters whatsoever. But the righties are still really, really good. So if you wanted to just try and grab, a random home run off of Garrett Cole, you certainly could. He'll probably give up one or two, but it's also a 12-game slate, and I'm not anticipating going out of my way to pick on Garrett Cole.
Okay. Anything else you want to say about this game?
No.
Okay. Ryan Reenbohm asked me single entry pitcher for Fanduel. Do you have an opinion about who the best single entry pitcher is for Fanduel?
It kind of depends on your lineup as a whole. Like, I think it's Aaron Knoll. I think Aaron Nola is pretty clearly the best pitcher on the slate. He's also projected for like 34% ownership. So kind of depends where you're going with bats. Like if you're stacking two of the most popular offenses, then I think it's fine to get, like Garrett Cole on FanDuel is only getting 13% ownership. Brandon Woodruff's getting 9% against a watered down Cardinals lineup. So I think pivots like that make sense depending on your offense. But if you're just asking for the top pitcher, I think it's Nola.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense to me. That sounds approximately the way I would think about it too. Yeah, I have not been playing enough recently on FanDuel to really have a strong opinion. The top pitchers tool doesn't really tell me anything. All that nobody stands out to me. So I think your answer is probably in line with exactly what I would say. All right, let's move on to the next game, which is Orioles at Red Sox. Dean Kramer on the mound for the Orioles. Rich Hill for the Red Sox. The Orioles have a 4.4 run implied total. Red Sox 4.6. We'll start on the mound again. Any interest in Dean Kramer or Rich Hill?
I have some interest in Rich Hill. I don't know how much I'm going to need to get there, but 5,700 is really cheap, and this Orioles lineup is absolute garbage. Rich Hill's getting no ownership. I mentioned Odorizzi as a paydown guy at 5,400. He's getting around 8%. This O's lineup sucks. There's no Adley Rutschman. There's no Cedric Mullins. There's no Gunnar Henderson. There's no Ramon Urias. They're probably going to pinch hit with Henderson and Mullins once Hill gets out of the game. But as far as Hill goes, like, this lineup is bad, like extremely, extremely bad. He's still not a very good pitcher, but at 5,700 and no ownership, if I need to pay down, I am interested in him in tournaments just because this is like the worst possible lineup the Orioles could run out there.
Okay, so some interest in Rich Hill, nothing for Dean Kramer.
No, I think he's an average-ish and probably improving pitcher, but I don't really see the need to go to him in a tough spot against the Red Sox.
Okay, then let's jump to the bats. Are you going to be playing any of this terrible O's lineup?
I was earlier. I don't think I'll get to nearly as much now. There's value here, and it is still a decent spot against Hill. The issue is just kind of twofold. One, a lot of the guys in this lineup just aren't very good. And two, there is pinch hit risk here. This kind of it reminds me of like a Giants type situation because I don't know if Adley Rutschman will end up playing today. I assume they're just giving him a day off. But there's not really much question in my mind that once you get Rich Hill out of this game and you get a right-handed reliever in there, Cedric Mullins is hitting for probably McKenna. Henderson's hitting for probably Nevin, possibly Aguilar. So those value bats, like Ryan McKenna, one, he's not very good. And two, he's probably not finishing this game. Tyler Nevin, again, not very good and also probably not finishing this game. So that makes it kind of tough. But Ryan Mountcastle, I think, does look good here. You're getting him in Fenway, plays up right-handed power a lot more than Camden Yards does. He's hitting second, so I like him individually. I still like Santander, multiple home run games in 3 of his last 4. Not that that's predictive. It just shows the amount of upside that you're getting from him. Austin Hayes hitting 5th, nice value. So I'm still interested in the Orioles, just not nearly as much as I normally am when you're talking about having Adley Rutschman to fill a catcher spot and Gunnar Henderson at shortstop. It's a really, really weak lineup overall.
So do you say it's tougher to use them as a full stack? Maybe you'll use them more as a secondary stack or one-offs?
Yeah, that's kind of how I see it, because I really like Mountcastle. I like Santander. I like Hayes. The rest is just kind of mediocre, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Makes sense. What about the Red Sox? You may playing any Red Sox in this matchup with Dean Grammer?
Yeah, so I think the Red Sox look good. In that crunch I ran earlier, I was fading them pretty aggressively, but it didn't really have anything to do with not liking them. It was just that I was getting to other popular teams, and that just not happened to be one. They didn't happen to be one of them, but it sets up as a pretty decent spot. Kramer's done a good job limiting power overall this season. 156 expected ISO to righties, 128 to lefties, but it's a pretty solid Boston lineup. And if you can get Kramer out of this game, and this goes for both teams, both bullpens are pretty depleted here. You had a rain delay after like the second inning 2 games ago, so the bullpens had to cover the rest of the game. And then yesterday, neither pitcher made it through 4 innings, so the bullpens again had to do a lot. Baltimore's bullpen in particular looked like absolute garbage yesterday. So I think that there's a lot of upside here if they can get to Kramer early. Tristan Casas at 2,300 is still really cheap. There's just no reason he should be that price tag. He looks like a great value. Rafael Devers looks great as usual. 5,500's cheaper than he should be realistically. And then the rest of these guys, especially Pham, Bogarts, Verdugo, Martinez, they're just all solid plays as well.
We got Malakar in chat predicting a JD home run tonight. You are now 2 for 2, I believe, in home run prediction. Is that correct, Adam?
So one was Cal Raleigh was still my only not requested one. But then, right, yeah, sure. I got the whoever Kerry Carpenter one with you.
Kerry Carpenter, yeah, right. That was a great call. I thought you were talking about Kerry Washington and just making fun of me. I didn't know what was going on there, but real player apparently, and he actually hit a home run. All right. Anything else you want to say about the Orioles and Red Sox game before we move on?
No, I'm interested to see where I end up with the Orioles because they do look like good value, but I also just kind of hope I don't get to a lot of them because there's so much pinch hit risk.
It does sound like an interesting game with the bullpens being kind of depleted, the starting pitchers not being amazing.
Yeah, the first 2 games of the series, you just got back and forth, very high scoring games, and obviously that's not like predictive of what today is going to be, but I think it's more likely than usual, just given like you have very, very overworked bullpens.
Right. All right, guys, let me tell you, you can get access to all the great Stokastic Plus tools and content for nearly every DFS sport out there with a Stokastic Plus Platinum Pass. This includes full access to all the premium content and tools on Stokastic.com, including player projections, ownership projections, lineup builder, our premium Discord channel, and much more. Now, if you're a new Stokastic Plus user, then you can save 50% on your first week of any Stokastic Plus pass. All you have to do is click the link in the video description below to activate this offer, or you can head to our join page and use promo code MLBDD, all caps, MLBDD, one word. That's MLBDD for 50% off your first week of any weekly package. If you only want to play MLB DFS, that's perfectly fine. Head to our MLB weekly checkout page instead and use this code to get 50% off your first week of our MLB package. Again, this is for new users only. Please note that Fantasy Cruncher is an add-on and is not included with this promo. All right, Adam, next up, we've got the Marlins at the Mets. The Marlins have a 2.9 run implied total, Mets at 4.0. Jesus Luzardo on the mound for the Marlins, Taijuan Walker for the Mets. Any interest in the pitchers here?
Yeah, for sure. Walker, I think, is going a little bit over-owned. I think Luzardo is going a little bit under-owned, but they both just look like solid plays for different reasons. Walker's got one of the best matchups on the slate. He's in a good park. He's facing a Miami team that just isn't very good. They have a 2.9 implied run total. Walker himself doesn't offer a ton of strikeout upside, only an 18.7% strikeout percentage this year, 4.1 xFIP, but he's not very expensive at 7,900. We have him with that's DraftKings. Okay. We have him with an 8% chance of being a top 2 pitcher. That seems really low to me. 14% projected ownership, but it is a good matchup for him. On the other side, it's a really difficult matchup for Luzardo, but we only have him projected for about 6% ownership. And he's one of the best strikeout pitchers on the slate. The only pitchers pitching today with higher strikeout percentages than Jesus Luzardo are Garrett Cole and Brandon Woodruff. Luzardo is only 8,100 on DraftKings and has the 3rd best strikeout percentage on the slate. So it's a scary matchup with the Mets, both because they are a productive offense and because they don't strike out a lot. But you're getting a pretty nice salary discount on Luzardo and not much ownership. So I do have interest in both pitchers here.
Okay. Yeah, they both look pretty solid in the tools. What about the offenses, though? Do you have any interest? The Marlins have a 2.9 run implied total, one of the lowest, maybe the lowest on the slate. Any interest in Marlins bats today?
Not much at all. One thing with Taijuan Walker, yesterday, obviously I liked Carlos Carrasco like everybody else did. But I pointed out that he has had issues with left-handed power. Specifically mentioned JJ Bleday, who ended up homering. With Walker, he doesn't have the same strikeout stuff as Carrasco, but 153 expected ISO to lefties, 153 to righties. Just doesn't really have anything that stands out as far as even something that I'm really looking to target. And then, this park isn't very good. The Marlins aren't very good. There are low probability teams today that I would rather get to than the Marlins if I'm going that route.
Okay. What about the Mets on the other side? 4-run implied total.
I have trouble getting to them too. They're at least a talented offense where you're never going to be like upset that you get to them. But Luzardo's a good pitcher. He's got the strikeout ability, but he's also done a good job limiting power this year. Righties only have a 137 expected ISO, 288 expected WOBA. Lefties have a 127 expected ISO and 294 expected WOBA. He's striking out 28% of righties, 33% of lefties. I don't really have much interest in either offense.
Okay. We got the question, which teams are playing for anything? I don't really want to put you on the spot here, Adam, because I don't know off the top of my head what every team's motivation is at this point. I know you have a little bit better of a handle on it than I do, at least. Do you have an answer for that? Any teams that are still playing for something or are completely, not playing for anything at this point?
Yeah, so Toronto, Seattle, Baltimore, Tampa Bay, but they're not playing today, if I remember correctly, or at least on this slate. Toronto, Seattle, Baltimore, all still wild card playoff implications from the American League. The Mets and the Braves are both in the playoffs, but they're competing for the NL East title. The Phillies and Brewers and Padres are all battling for 2 of the final 3 wild card spots. The Yankees have absolutely nothing to play for. They clinched yesterday. That's why you're seeing the lineup that they're running out there. Same goes for the Cardinals. Yeah, I think that pretty much sums it up. Okay. The Astros have an 18-game lead. They clinched the division already. But like the thing with baseball is I think when teams like the Astros have it locked up, you can probably be a little bit more cautious on guys like Verlander, just in the sense that it's less likely that they let him go throw like 110 pitches no matter what he's doing. But you're getting the starting lineup. Typically you're just going to get those guys playing the game. So it's more so like you get the one rest day, like you're getting with the Cardinals and the Yankees today. And then typically you don't have to worry about it too much outside of just keeping in mind that maybe pitchers aren't going to go quite as deep.
Okay. So mostly just like the ace pitchers probably don't go quite as deep, but
right. Like I think the game plan with Verlander is probably go out there, pitch 6 innings, get your 90 pitches in, leave the game healthy. That's probably the plan. Like Verlander can strike out 10 guys in 6 innings. Maybe he goes deeper, but it shouldn't surprise anybody if they're still just like, yeah, cool, you're done.
Okay. Yeah, I'm glad I asked you. I didn't want to put you on the spot, but I also thought there was a pretty good chance that you would know the answer to that question just based on the conversations we've had about it on these shows. So
yeah, and that's shockingly based on the Orioles lineup, they are actually playing for something.
Yeah. Anything else you want to say about the Marlins at Mets game?
No, just an interesting pitcher game, I think, more so than hitting.
Okay. All right, then let's move on to the Phillies at Cubs game. The Phillies have a 4.1 run implied total. The Cubs are at 3.0. Aaron Nola on the mound for the Phillies. Hayden Wesneski for the Cubs. Let's start with the pitchers. I think you said that Aaron Nola is your favorite pitcher on the slate. You can tell me about your interest in Nola and then also any interest at all in Hayden Wesneski.
Yeah, I think Nola is just very clearly the top guy. That's not to say that there aren't alternatives and that you can't get away from him in some tournament lineups. He's pulling 45% ownership on DraftKings. He's pulling 34 on Fanduel, which obviously on a one pitcher site that's a ton. But he's one of the most talented pitchers on the slate. 4th highest strikeout percentage at 28.7%. 2.84 xFIP is second best to Garrett Cole. Just a really, really good pitcher. But then you also have him pitching in Wrigley Field where it's supposed to be 50 to 55 degrees. The wind is blowing in. It's really, really good pitching conditions. The Cubs are running out a lineup that has whatever Esteban Quiroz is hitting second, Zach McKinstry leading off. Like you have Contreras, you have Happ, you have Horner, you have Wisdom in this lineup, but it's not a good lineup overall. No Franmil Reyes, which takes a strikeout bat out, but also takes out a power bat. It's just overall a really, really good spot for Nola. I joked with Josh this morning, like it checks off all of the boxes. Pitching weather is good. 2.7 implied run total for the Cubs. Solid strikeout spot. Really good pitcher. It's pretty much a foregone conclusion. He's going to find a way to give up like 8 runs, but not much you can do with that ahead of time. He looks really, really good. Just pay attention to the ownership within whatever lineups you're playing. But if you're playing cash, it should be Aaron Nola, and you should still be getting him in a lot of tournament lineups.
Okay.
As far as Wisniewski goes, much more difficult sell. The weather obviously works in his favor here as well, but much more difficult matchup against the Phillies. He's had some strikeout success in the majors so far in a limited sample, but that's not really backed up by his minor league numbers. He spent most of this year at AAA for the Yankees, where he had about a 22% strikeout percentage. Zips projects him for a 20 to 21% strikeout percentage going forward. The bat has him at 21 to 22%. He kind of just projects as like a back end starter. So with him, it's more so if you're rostering him, I think it's just kind of you land on a random 1% owned pitcher here and there, and you just hope that he pitches well. But I don't think you should be getting too excited about what he's done so far, because I think it's unlikely to continue.
Okay, the 28.6% strikeout rate, unlikely to hold, but still seems like a decent enough pitcher, 7,600. So if you land on it, it's fine. Okay. Let's go to the bats then. The Phillies in this matchup with Hayden Wesneski. If his success so far in the league is not something you think is sustainable, do you have interest in the Phillies today?
I still don't have too much. They're not getting a lot of ownership, which is nice, just given the fact that you do have really good hitters, either like Schwarber and Harper, or you have guys that at least at one point were good, like Realmuto and Castellanos. But, just from a name standpoint, there's clearly upside here, especially when you talk about these top 6 bats. But the weather is really working against them. I don't think Wesneski's bad. I think he's just, a back end starter. So yeah, it's kind of just, getting to low owned Schwarber, Harper, Hoskins is always somewhat appealing, but I don't think they're going to be a spot that I get to a lot of here.
I suppose, especially with winds blowing in Wrigley, that's never a helpful thing. They look
okay 3.8
in the top
implied run
stacks,
total, just nothing I'm going to be too excited about.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. What about the other side of it? I assume you're not going to have a lot of interest in the Cubs against Nola?
I have no interest in the Cubs.
Okay. Negative interest in the Cubs.
Yeah.
Anything else to say about this game?
Nope.
All right. Up next, we've got the Cardinals at the Brewers. The Cardinals have a 3.3 run implied total. The Brewers at 3.9. Jose Quintana on the mound for the Cardinals. Brandon Woodruff for the Brewers. Let's start with the pitchers. Once again, how much interest do you have in Jose Quintana and Brandon Woodruff tonight?
I have a decent amount of interest in the pitching here. Woodruff in particular, the Brewers are one of the teams that are playing for something. So if Woodruff's pitching well, you expect them to want him to stay on the mound. But you're also getting a watered down Cardinals lineup here. And it's not a great strikeout lineup, but Woodruff's a really good strikeout pitcher. He has the second best strikeout percentage on the slate at 30.1%. You look at the pitchers he's sandwiched between. Garrett Cole going up against a Toronto team that's running their normal lineup out there. Jesus Luzardo going up against a Mets team that's running their normal lineup out there. And then you have Woodruff going out against basically the 4A Cardinal squad. Paul Goldschmidt in the lineup. That was kind of surprising to me. But, you have the top of the order with Donovan, Carlson, Goldschmidt. That's relatively normal. Juan Yepez gives you some strikeouts. Dickerson is fine. DeYoung strikes out a lot. And then the bottom of this order just really should be favorable for Woodruff. No Pujols today. No Tyler O'Neill. No Nolan Arenado. No Tommy Edman. So it sets up as a good spot for Woodruff, who is also getting a bit more ownership than he was this morning at 22.5%. But just looks good at this price tag. Quintana on the other side, not a great strikeout pitcher, only about an 18% strikeout percentage against righties this year. And it is a good park for hitters, but he's done a good job limiting power, only a 128 expected ISO, only getting 3% ownership. We have him with about a 6% chance of being a top 2 pitcher, 11% chance of being a top 2 value. So not somebody I'm going out of my way to get to, but if I need a low owned pitcher in that price range, I think he's serviceable.
Okay. Then let's jump to the bats. Sounds like both pitchers are kind of interesting, especially Woodruff more interesting. But Cardinals 3.3 run implied total up against Woodruff, not their best lineup. How much interest, if any?
Not much in the Cardinals. Just a really, really tough matchup, and then still a difficult team to really want to get to. Goldschmidt's at 5,900. I don't love paying that price against Woodruff. Donovan, Carlson, Yepez, Dickerson, they're whatever. But again, there's just other low probability, low owned teams that I like a little bit more.
Okay. And then what about the Brewers on the other side of it against Quintana?
The Brewers are kind of interesting just because they do have right-handed power in a favorable park against a pitcher that doesn't miss a lot of bats. But, like I mentioned before, Quintana's done a really good job limiting power this year. So if I have to go to one of these two offenses, it would be Milwaukee for me. You do get, McCutchen, Adames, Renfroe, Brosseau, Urias, 1 through 5. That's pretty solid, but it's also not a particularly good matchup for them.
Okay. Anything else that you want to say about this game before we move on?
No.
All right, guys, I appreciate everybody in chat reminding people to hit the like. I don't do it very frequently in the show, so I appreciate you guys saying it. And yes, please do hit that like if you have not already. Let me also tell you about our sponsor, OddsShopper. Make your best bets in 30 seconds or less with OddsShopper. With hundreds of bets featured daily, OddsShopper gives you the edge you need betting player props and game lines across all sports. With expected win percentages and ROIs included, OddsShopper features multiple projection methods, which will help you make the best bets available on the market. OddsShopper also features a parlay builder with optimized parlays and an arbitrage tool that identifies risk-free, guaranteed profit bets that you can make across sports books. What are you waiting for? Click the link in the video description below to sign up for free with OddsShopper and start making smarter bets now. All right. Up next, we've got the White Sox at the Twins. White Sox with a 3.7 run implied total. The Twins at 3.6. Johnny Cueto on the mound for the Sox. Josh Winder for the Twins. We'll start with the pitchers once again. Any interest in Johnny Cueto or Josh Winder?
No, not really any sort of sale I can make for either pitcher here.
Okay. Yep. That's kind of what I figured. What about the bats? I mean, the pitchers don't look great, but still the teams only have 3.7, 3.6 run implied totals. How much interest do you have? And we'll start with the White Sox. Any interest there?
Not too much. Winder this year, not a huge sample size, but he has given up some power. 203 expected ISO to righties, 185 to lefties, not striking out a lot of guys. Not a great park for hitting, but you do have some power bats in this lineup. The pricing's just not all that appealing. Like, I don't really want to pay $5K for Abreu on this slate. I don't really want to pay up for Jimenez. Vaughn's at 4,300. Elvis Andrus is at 4K. I think we're on the same page about how we feel there. Gavin Sheets at 2,600 looks like a good value. You do have Yasmani Grandal, catcher, at 3,600. So some interest in the White Sox just because of Winder's power, but it's not a great park to pitch in, or to hit in rather. And it also looks like it's supposed to be between 50 and 60 degrees. So not great hitting weather either. And then on the other side, kind of the same thing. I don't think Cueto is a great pitcher. He's certainly not somebody I like to roster in DFS, only striking out 15% of hitters, but he's doing a good job limiting power, 0.8 home runs per nine, 4.4 xFIP. Typically just does a good job being deceptive. And the Twins lineup is pretty much garbage. The top of it's fine. Correa obviously is good. Arise is a good hitter. He's not a great DFS hitter. Nick Gordon, I had mentioned pretty much every time he plays, 2,800, multi-position eligible. He looks very good. Jose Miranda is a good hitting prospect, but it's a pretty loaded first base position today. So there's just not a lot that stands out to me. I do think Nick Gordon is my favorite hitter in the game.
Okay. Yep. Makes sense. Probably mine too. Anything else about this game before we move on?
Nope.
All right, we've got the Diamondbacks at the Astros. The D-backs have a 2.7 run implied total. The Astros at 3.8. Zach Gallen on the mound for the Diamondbacks. Verlander on the mound for the Astros. How much interest do you have in Zach Gallen or Justin Verlander tonight?
I have a lot of interest in Verlander. I think he's one of the highest projected pitchers. We have him fourth. We have it Nola, Cole, Woodruff, Verlander, but I think it's a situation where reasonable minds can certainly differ. They're all just, pretty comparable. Verlander at 10-5, decent matchup. Arizona is a team that has a lot of young talent, but they are still young. They're facing Justin Verlander, who's been very, very good this year, striking out 26.9% of hitters, 3.3 xFIP. I think Verlander looks good. Gallen on the other side is the type of play that I would love to get there. He is up to 6% ownership, so that's a little bit higher than he was this morning, but he's a really good pitcher. It's also just a really difficult matchup against Houston. You don't have Yordan Alvarez today, which is nice for him. You don't have Jose Altuve, so this lineup is a little bit more favorable. The bottom of the order certainly not very good with McCormick, Dubon, and Maldonado hitting 7 through 9, but still a relatively difficult spot. I think you can use him kind of similar to Jesus Luzardo, but he's $1,300 more expensive. But it's kind of similar in that he's a really good pitcher. He's going under-owned, but it's also a really tough spot. And in most lineups, I'm probably not going to need to prioritize him.
Okay. Yep. That all makes sense to me. What about the other side of it? I mean, the Diamondbacks have a 2.7 run implied total. You're going to be going to any D-backs against Verlander?
Probably not, but they are, when you talk about these really not interesting teams, I think they're a little bit higher up than teams like the Marlins for me, just because of the amount of talent that they have. Dalton Varsho, Pavin Smith, Jake McCarthy, they all are solid. I don't know why Corbin Carroll's hitting 7th. That makes them less appealing. But Christian Walker, Kettle Marte, these guys are all fine. Certainly not a spot that I'm looking to pick on Verlander, but if for whatever reason you're insisting on playing an unlikely to succeed team that isn't getting ownership, Arizona, I think, is better than the ones we've talked about so far.
Okay. And what about the Astros? I mean, Zach Gallen, obviously a talented pitcher, but the Astros still have a 3.8 run implied total, higher than the Twins or the White Sox in the game we just talked about. How much interest, if any, do you have in playing the Astros, either as a full stack or as one-offs here?
I was getting to them in the crunch that I did earlier. I'm curious to see now that their lineup's out where I get to. I think Gallen is a very good pitcher, but it really just comes down to, I mean, we have the reason that I would get to them. We have the Astros projected for like 1.5% aggregate ownership. We only have them with about a 2% chance of being the top stack, but the fifth highest or sixth highest top stack percentage on this entire slate is 5%. So that's not quite as bad as it normally would be. There's clearly still talent in this lineup. And sort of like we were talking about with the Yankees, like you don't get the same level of value from Houston that you are with the Yankees. But while the lineup isn't as appealing without Altuve and without Alvarez, you get a little bit cheaper stack. You have a number 5 hitter or a catcher hitting 5 who's actually good in Christian Vasquez. You have Mancini with a little bit of a lineup bump up to 6. Pena, Tucker, Bregman, like those guys are all good. So I'm still interested in the Astros. I don't think they're a high probability team, but I do just like getting to this team whenever they're low owned.
Yeah, talented team. You know they can kind of do it against anybody, so that makes sense to me. Anything else you want to say about this game before we move on?
I don't really think so. Like I kind of view Gallen and the Astros as like really similar, where it's just like they're both really good. I don't really want to pick on either one, but at the same time, they're both really good and not getting ownership, so they're kind of interesting.
Right. A little bit of volatility there. Okay. Athletics at Angels up next. Athletics have a 3.5 run implied total. Angels 4.8. Adrian Martinez on the mound for the A's. Michael Lorenzen for the Angels. Any interest in either of those pitchers?
No.
Okay. That's an easy answer. What about the bats on the other side? We'll start with the Athletics. They have a 3.5 run implied total against Michael Lorenzen. What is your level of interest?
They were either my highest or second highest owned stack in the crunch I did earlier. This game was my highest owned game. There's just a lot of things to like here, I think. Oakland has a 3.6 implied run total, which, certainly isn't great. Michael Lorenzen overall this year has just been, an average-ish pitcher, 19% strikeout percentage, 4.36 xFIP. He has had some issues with left-handed power, 200 actual ISO, 173 expected ISO. Seth Brown individually stands out as one of my favorite plays today at 2,700. You can use, either of the catchers. We don't have their lineup yet, but assuming you're getting Murphy and Langeliers in there, they're both going to be solid plays. Vimael Machine is cheap. Tony Kemp, assuming he's in the lineup, has MPE and he's cheap. So it's a nice combination of value and at least a decent spot against Lorenzen. And then you're also getting a really nice park upgrade going from Oakland to Anaheim as well.
Okay. So yeah, they look like they are getting they're our top value stack 18.9% of the time, at least as of the last time I refreshed. So definitely one of the better in terms of point per dollar on the slate. What about the other side of it? Do you have any interest in the Angels tonight?
Yeah, a lot of it. Adrian Martinez put up pretty solid AAA numbers this year, at least from a strikeout standpoint. At AAA, 18 starts, 89 and 2/3 innings. He struck out 25.7% of hitters. He had a 4.67 xFIP. So far, 10 starts for Oakland, 4.22 xFIP, 5.85 expected ERA, striking out 20.2% of hitters. He has allowed a 171 expected ISO to righties, 268 to lefties. Only it's not a huge sample, like I said, 10 starts, but 268 expected ISO to lefties. And now you get to face Rengifo and Ohtani in particular, but then also probably going to have Mike Ford, Mickey Moniak in this lineup. They have a 2K flat shortstop, probably hitting ninth, but also, shortstop's not a very good position today. So I think the Angels are pretty easy to get to. Trout and Ohtani stand out clearly as two of the top options on the entire slate, and I really like the second base shortstop eligibility that Rengifo gives you as well.
Okay, so just a great game overall for stacking bats, not playing the pitchers.
Also warm in Anaheim. Looks like it's supposed to be in the 80s, which is notable when you have like all of the East Coast games being in the 60s and all of the Central games being in like the 50s.
I'm appreciating that we have a new member of chat whose username is just a question mark, and chat is loving it. Everybody's very curious about this person. Is it the Riddler? Who is this guy? Probably just showing up for the Eric and Greg show coming up next. He's a little bit early here, but yeah, pretty fun to have question mark in chat tonight. Guys, before we move on to the next game, let me tell you, you can get access to all of our Stokastic Plus NFL tools for showdown and single game slates for only $1. Click the link in the description of this video below, or use promo code PRIMETIME, that's all caps, PRIMETIME, at checkout to get 1 week of our NFL Primetime package for only $1. This includes full access to all the premium content and tools for NFL DFS, that we have to offer for showdown and single game slates, including player projections, ownership projections, top plays, lineup builder, and our expert Discord. This offer is only valid through September 29th. That's tomorrow. So get on it now. Please note that Fantasy Cruncher is an add-on and is not included with this promo. All right, Adam, up next, we've got the Rangers at the Mariners. Rangers with a 3.0 run implied total. The Mariners at 3.9. Martin Perez on the mound for the Rangers. George Kirby for the Mariners. Let's start once again with the pitchers. Any interest in Martin Perez or George Kirby?
I like the park, and I don't hate the matchup for either guy. We do have a Mariners lineup. We don't have a Rangers lineup, and the Rangers lineup is important because Corey Seager left yesterday's game after getting hit in the arm. They said he didn't break anything, and he's day-to-day. So if he's not in the lineup, clearly that becomes a much better spot for George Kirby. But I think both pitchers are relatively interesting. Kirby certainly has better strikeout stuff, but we have him getting 23% ownership right now. I just finished the crunch that I've been running during the show. I didn't get that much of him. I got to like 7%, and it's not really a knock on him. It's just that I think a lot of guys in that range are kind of similar in terms of projection and range of outcomes. And I'm also a little bit concerned by how deep Kirby's going to go into the game, just because he is a young pitcher and, we're getting into late September now. I'm not reading much into his last start because he just pitched really poorly and was taken out. But in his two previous starts, he was taken out after 6 innings at like 85 pitches or so. That very easily could have just been, well, he's at 6 innings, so he's done. But I also think there's a good chance that they're just not going to push him. My guess is he has some sort of like a soft cap where it's like 6 innings or 85, 90 pitches, which is fine. He's still playable, but I just have concerns like if he's pitching well, will they actually give him those extra innings to get him over the top? And it's an okay matchup against Texas. They do only have a 2.9 implied run total. If Seager's not in, it looks better. On the other side, Perez doesn't give you the same sort of strikeout upside that Kirby does. He's only struck out 21% of hitters this year, but a 3.7 xFIP, really good at limiting power. No Julio Rodriguez for the Mariners because he's on the injured list. So it's a bit of a watered down lineup. No Cal Raleigh in there either. You have Kurt Casale instead. Ultimately, I don't think I get to much of either guy. I think that Kirby is the better of the two options, and that's why he's getting 23% ownership compared to Perez getting 3%. But from a tournament standpoint at 3%, I do have a little bit of interest in Perez as well. I think I'm getting right around that 3% mark on him right now.
Okay. I saw you dipped your toes into the betting market when Julio Rodriguez went down. You said maybe this is an opportunity for Adley Rutschman. You can maybe get him at a discount for Rookie of the Year. Has Adley Rutschman done anything, or has he been not playing every day?
Oh, no, he's playing every day and doing well.
Okay.
Homered yesterday.
Oh.
Might have homered 2 games or 3 games ago. Yeah, and like when I said that, I couldn't even find the line because I'm pretty sure the books pulled it when Rodriguez got hurt. But I knew that it was pretty much neck and neck between those two. And Rodriguez has, at that time, he had, I think, like a half win advantage on Rutschman, but he'd also played like 28 more games. And so I was just thinking, like, if Rodriguez misses the rest of the year and Rutschman plays well, they can end up being really close there. There's the non-zero chance that the Orioles catch the Mariners, although that is becoming much closer to zero as time passes. So yeah, it was just kind of like if there was a betting gap there, I think Rodriguez kind of had it locked up, assuming they both finished the year healthy. But now I think it could end up looking a lot closer.
Okay, yeah, and you disclaimed in that tweet that wasn't really your field of expertise necessarily, just something that you had some intuition about. And it sounds like if Rutschman's playing well, maybe that has moved a little bit more in his favor since you made the tweet. You can hope at least.
Yeah.
Even if the Orioles don't catch the Mariners, he's probably still got a shot, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those two. Rodriguez, I think, probably has the advantage because he's been up the whole year and he's just like the flashier player. But then at the same time, Rutschman was the first overall pick, so he has that kind of narrative thing too. But like a lot of Rutschman's value, like he's been really good offensively, but then a lot of his value too just comes from being like an excellent catcher, which isn't what people are really excited about.
Yeah, nobody cares about that, Adam.
Right.
All right.
But yeah, same kind of thing happened in the National League too. Like it's between Strider and Harris, and now Strider's done for the year.
Oh yeah, right. That's a bummer. All right. The bats on the other side of it. The Rangers have a 3-run implied total up against George Kirby. Any interest there? We don't have the lineup out, so I guess that makes it tough. But do you think you'll have interest in the Rangers?
I don't really think so. In the crunch that I just ran, I got like 2.5%, so over the field, I guess, but nothing really worth mentioning. And I think that was with Seager still in. So like if Seager's out, that number probably comes down.
Okay. What about the Mariners on the other side of a 3.9 run implied total against Martin Perez? Any interest there?
Yeah, pretty much around the field on them too. Just not a spot that I really want to get much of. Perez has only allowed a 108 expected ISO to righties this year, sub 100 the lefties. It's a really, really tough park to hit in. The only thing I think kind of working in the Mariners' favor is that you have Dylan Moore leading off, second base, shortstop eligible at 3K. Ty France has first base, third base at 4,200. Then you get Suarez, Haniger, who we know have plenty of power from the right side. So that part is just like easy to get into lineups, but it's still not anything I'm really excited about getting to.
Okay, so you're going to play some, but it's not a priority.
Yeah. To quickly double back, I'm still over the field on Baltimore right now. It looks like I'm actually getting to the good Baltimore bats that I wanted to get to, which is nice. And the Angels and A's are, if the slate started right now, still far and away my highest owned game from an offensive standpoint.
I'm sorry that I said nice things about question mark because now he's in chat saying Rushman sucks, can't hit, plays defense decent.
That is one of the dumbest things I've read in this chat, and Sean V is frequently in this chat.
He might not be the hero we need. I thought question mark might be our hero, but maybe he's a villain after all.
Rushman's been like 30% better than league average as a hitter this year in his rookie season while playing catcher.
Yeah, I mean he's clearly just trolling. That's not a real take that anybody has.
Yeah,
all right,
194 ISO, 133 WRC plus, catching at a Gold Glove level. Guy's terrible.
There was a lot of speculation that question mark was Sean V. And now we've got a question. We haven't seen Sean tonight, so maybe it is Sean V's new identity. All right, we've covered this game pretty well. Anything else you want to say about Rangers at Mariners?
No.
All right, then let's move on to Dodgers at Padres. The Dodgers have a 3.9 run implied total. Padres at 3.4. Julio Urias on the mound for the Dodgers. Joe Musgrove for the Pods. How much interest, if any, do you have in Urias or Musgrove?
I'm overweight on both right now, just from like a pure technical standpoint. Like I'm getting 8% Musgrove and 8% Urias and like 5% Musgrove, but that could disappear in my final crunch and I wouldn't notice or care. I think that they're both interesting just because they're really low owned and they're both good. It's also a really difficult matchup for both of them. Two offenses that are difficult to strike out, two offenses that just have a lot of really good hitters. So they're kind of like Jesus Luzardo for me, where they're not priorities because the matchups are so difficult. But if I am stacking, Atlanta or a relatively popular Angels team or something like that, then maybe I do want to get to one of those guys just to offset some ownership.
Okay, so not high likelihood plays, but obviously these guys both have the upside. So, when you need to get contrarian a pitcher, it makes some sense to play them. That makes sense to me. What about the bats on the other side? The Dodgers only have a 3.9 run implied total, pretty low for the Dodgers. They don't have much to play for, I believe you said. How much interest do you have in the Dodgers as the bats tonight?
Yeah, not getting into too much of them. I have like 4% across 150 lineups. Yeah, it's a tough matchup against Musgrove. It's a really good offense, obviously, but you also have to pay for them. Musgrove this year, not giving up a lot of power, 150 expected ISO to righties, only 109 to lefties. It's just not a particularly appealing spot.
Okay. To answer your question mark says, you all seem to hate this Sean V guy. I don't know who that guy is. I like Sean V. I think that I like him because he takes it well. You can troll him all day, all night. He doesn't care. He's just going to keep coming with his opinion. I appreciate a guy who has thick skin and can take the trolling. So
I like him too.
Says
plenty of dumb things, not as dumb as the Rutschman thing though.
Yeah, exactly. All right. The other side of it, the Padres. How much interest do you have in the Pods going up against Julio Urias tonight?
Pretty similar to the Dodgers, except like a little bit less interest, just because I think their lineup's a little bit not as deep or worse, or however you want to word it. So I'm getting to less Padres than the Dodgers, but I think they're comparable just in the sense that if you're playing them, it's just because they have a lot of talent and you're just hoping that wins out.
Okay. Anything else that you want to say about Dodgers at Padres before we move on to the final game of the night?
As far as really good offenses that are in tough spots tonight, I have it ranked Houston, then Dodgers, then Padres, then Blue Jays.
Okay. Sounds good. All right, then let's talk about the Rockies at Giants. The Rockies have a 3.0 run implied total. Giants 4.5. We've got Jose Urena on the mound for the Rockies. The Giants, we have Sean Helly listed as the starter, and then Shelby Miller is listed on DraftKings. So I'm assuming that this is a bullpen game.
Yeah, I believe so. I'd seen people in chat talking about Miller. I hadn't actually seen his name anywhere.
Maybe I need to look up what the status is there, because we had a different pitcher listed than what is listed in the DraftKings app. So maybe
so DraftKings has Yeah, it just says Miller's contract was selected, and they have him listed as pitching. I hadn't seen that anywhere outside of DraftKings.
Yeah, and I'm not seeing anything on Twitter that is confirming this either. Um, when I search for latest Shelby Miller news, I don't get anything on Twitter, so maybe I'll have to Google it.
Yeah, and then also of note, I guess Sean Jelly, like the most recent update on DraftKings is that Sean Jelly was optioned to AAA on the 21st. There's nothing about him coming back. I don't really have interest. I don't really care who it is. I don't have interest.
Right.
But
that makes it a lot easier. If we just
yeah.
don't really care who's pitching tonight for the what team are we even talking about here? For San Francisco, yeah, you don't have to play Sean Jelly or Shelby Miller tonight. That makes it much easier. Did you say you do you have any interest at all in Jose Urena?
No, I don't.
Okay. Yeah, I'm looking at his stats. That was kind of what I expected. Then let's go to the bets. Rockies with only a three run implied total in this game against these not great pitchers. Do you have any interest there?
Not really. Still a huge park downgrade for them going into San Francisco. Just a really bad offense away from Coors Field. Individually, Ryan McMahon, Grichuk, Crone, Blackman, Toglia, those guys are all fine, but there's just a lot of spots that I get to ahead of them on this slate.
Okay. And then the Giants final bat team of the night, final lineup of the night, I guess. How much interest do you have in playing Giants bats tonight? They have a 4.5 run implied total going up against Urena.
I think it's a good spot against Urena. He's just not a particularly good pitcher, but he has done a decent job limiting power this year. 138 expected ISO to lefties, 179 to righties, only a 146 actual ISO to righties, only striking out 13.7% of hitters from either side of the plate. My biggest issue with the Giants is just that they're pulling some ownership. We have them right now with 7% projected ownership, 6% chance of being the top stack. I'm getting to I think the Giants are fine, but I'm getting to a relatively popular Oakland team. I'm getting to a relatively popular Angels team. For me personally, if that holds, that's just a relatively popular Orioles team as well. That's just going to drive down the other popular teams because I only have so much exposure to go around. So that's I'm not getting to the Giants right now. I think it's a perfectly fine spot. I don't like the park, but I think it's a decent matchup. I think you have some solid hitters here. It's just the spot that I'm not getting to because I'm getting to some other popular ones.
Okay. I see Sean V has showed up in chat. He's interacting with question mark. I don't think that Sean V is the type who would make up an alternative identity and then communicate with himself in chat. So I think we've confirmed that question mark is not Sean V. This is the mystery of the hour. Glad we solved that one. Adam, anything else that you want to say about this slate before we hand it off to the live before lock crew?
Nope, that's about it. To reiterate, Michael Harris and Matt Olson look absolutely fantastic, and the fact that I'm not really getting to them in tournaments makes me think that they're going to be really, really good.
All right, but you're not going to force them in your lineups. You're just going to not get there and regret it immediately.
Yep, exactly.
All right, good plan. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Give us a like and subscribe so you can keep up with all of our shows, DFS offers, giveaways, and much more. Once you subscribe, hit that notification button to get alerts when our shows go live. We've got the Eric and Greg reunion coming up next. Rumor has it they might be going tip to tip, live on air. So you got to stick around for the Eric and Greg reunion show. Thanks for watching and good luck tonight.
September 28th edition of DraftKings Tournament Plays presented by Prize Picks. I'm your host, Adam Scherer. You can follow me on Twitter at ShipMyMoneyDFS. And as a reminder, be sure to click the link below to claim up to a $100 first match deposit bonus with Prize Picks. We have another 12-game slate on tap tonight, and we're going to take a look at 3 of the top tournament stacks and 3 of the top tournament pitchers for large field DraftKings tournaments using the top stacks tool and the top pitchers tool on the Stokastic.com website. Starting with the top stacks, number 3, the Atlanta Braves are taking on Josiah Gray tonight in Washington. The Braves are projected for 9% ownership with a 12% chance of being the top scoring stack. Gray has solid strikeout stuff with a 24.2% strikeout percentage this year, but he's allowed 2.33 home runs per 9 innings. The Braves have a ton of power in their lineup with a 187 ISO to go along with a 112 WRC plus on their active roster. Gray has really struggled with left-handed power. Matt Olson and Michael Harris look like 2 of the absolute top plays on the entire slate, but that's not to take anything away from the rest of the guys like Acuna and Swanson and Austin Riley that have plenty of power from the right side. Number 2, the Oakland Athletics taking on Michael Lorenzen in Anaheim. Lorenzen has been a pretty average pitcher this year, striking out 19.1% of hitters with a 4.36 xFIP. The A's have been a horrible offense. Their active roster has a 90 WRC plus and 135 ISO, but they are very inexpensive. They're projected for 8% ownership with a 4% chance of being the top scoring stack, in addition to a 26% chance of being the top value stack. Seth Brown individually stands out in the spot against Lorenzen, but it is a nice park upgrade for the A's, and they are really cheap, so they look like a useful stack to get to. And number 1, the Baltimore Orioles taking on Rich Hill in Fenway Park. They're projected for 9% ownership with a 9% chance of being the top scoring stack and a 6% chance of being the top value stack. Hill has struck out 19.5% of hitters with a 4.27 xFIP this season. The Orioles active roster has a 103 WRC plus and 165 ISO. They are a bit worse against left-handed pitching because you get Adley Rutschman from his weaker side of the plate. You also have Cedric Mullins and Gunnar Henderson, 2 of the Orioles' best hitters that are left-handed and now have to face a lefty. But the Red Sox bullpen is a bit thin. The first couple games of the series have been interesting. You had the rain delay in the first game, so you had the bullpen pitch, I think, the final 7 innings of the game. Yesterday, you had a 13-9 final where neither pitcher lasted 4 innings. Neither starting pitcher, rather, lasted 4 innings. So if the Orioles can get into this bullpen, they are likely to be able to do some damage. Now, before we take a look at the top 3 tournament pitchers, we do have a promo code for viewers of these videos. That promo code is AdamMLB. Use it and get 50% off Stokastic Plus weekly. This offer is available for new users only, but if you haven't already signed up for Stokastic Plus, take advantage. You'll get access to behind the paywall data, including the top stacks tool and the top pitchers tool that I reference in these videos. So again, that's promo code AdamMLB. Use it and get 50% off Stokastic Plus weekly. Now looking at the top 3 tournament pitchers, number 3, Brandon Woodruff taking on the St. Louis Cardinals at $10,000. Woodruff is projected for 23% ownership with a 20% chance of being a top 2 scoring pitcher and a 6% chance of being a top 2 value. He has struck out 30.1%.
What is going on, everybody? And it is time for Stokastic MLB Live Block, and it's a good one. Eric, back from his suspension. We are sponsored by Odd Chopper today, so we're going to be talking about some bets, some spots that we like putting some money on, and of course, a little bit of DFS talk as well. Now, Eric, the people have been dying for you to get back, and if nothing else, they want an explanation of your suspension because you've been gone for a little bit. What happened?
I'm going to start by saying, first of all, I want to apologize to my wife, to my family, to all my friends, to everybody for the things that I've done. I want to apologize to you personally, Greg, for trying to take advantage of a very, very lucrative situation to have you in my hometown. I apologize to Stokastic family, to everybody in chat. I hope you all understand where I'm coming from when I say that Greg's just irresistible, and there's nothing that I could have possibly done differently in this situation.
Yeah, I mean, that seems very dramatic for littering, but listen, that's the way these things go sometimes, and I know you learned your lesson. We support the planet around here, and Eric, no more. I know you're gonna do the right thing.
Okay.
And from now on, where do used condoms go? right? They don't go on the street. They don't go in areas where children are around. They go in the garbage. All right, there we go. We've learned our lesson. We already got super chats in here. Eric Traub, tip to tip. Thank you for the super chat, by the way. Tip to tip. Eric, come on. We can still do tip to tip. Yay.
Just doesn't feel the same.
There we go.
1999. Okay, now I'm fine. Now I feel good. Now we're ready. Eric Traub,
real guys. Come in, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. If anybody has questions at all about the baseball slate, throw them into Discord. Eric and I will be answering those as we go along. And it's an interesting baseball slate. We've got a whole bunch of games. Pitching has been totally bizarre lately because you've got pitchers who are on all kinds of restrictions. Sometimes pitchers are on restrictions that we don't even know about, and we just kind of find out in the fourth or fifth inning of games when guys are no longer on the mound. But in terms of ownership today, we've got a couple of pitchers that are fairly popular at the high end on both DraftKings and Fanduel. But the one that stands out above everybody else in our ownership projections right now, Aaron Knoll. He's projected for 35% ownership on Fanduel. On DraftKings, 46% projected ownership. Now, there are some positives to Aaron Knoll. Most predominantly, we know he's going to have no kind of restrictions. The Phillies are fighting for a playoff spot. But in large field tournaments, do you agree with all the ownership going to Knoll, Eric?
Yeah, I want more. This is just a great spot. It's 55 degrees in Chicago right now. Winds blowing in from center field, 10 miles per hour. You have something named an Esteban Quiroz that's batting second. Ian Happ, Wilson Contreras, those are decent major league hitters, very good major league hitters. But then on the back half of it, there's strikeouts available with Horner, Wisdom, Christopher Morel, who I find to just be a much better hitter than what they have leading off in Zach McKinstry. They've been doing that for months, and it still makes no sense to me. So I like Aaron Nola a lot. I think that it's somebody that on this big of a slate, it's pretty easy for me to differentiate with some of my stacks. There's a lot of spots that I think are going a little bit undervalued. So I think Aaron Nola for me at 9,700 for him on DraftKings. Yeah, he's popular, but he just feels like a no-brainer play more than the field spot.
And here's another point, too. So Nola's last start came against, I remember last start, he was in a good spot. All right. Yeah, last time. Oh, no, it wasn't he was in a good spot.
He played Atlanta back-to-back times.
But he was really underpriced in that spot. He was $9,300 on DK. He was projected for like 50% ownership in that spot. And if I remember correctly, he came in at 22% owned. There's a part of me that thinks maybe Nola doesn't get to be quite this popular. And that's why in large field tournaments, I think that I'm totally good with him. And honestly, if you ask me, is he going to be above or below the 46% projected ownership? I'd probably lean a little bit more towards below. When you consider on the high end, there's still other guys to choose from. There's Brandon Woodruff, Justin Verlander, of course, in a good spot against the Arizona Diamondbacks. Garrett Cole, he's in a tough matchup against Toronto, but still, he has a lot of strikeout upside. I think people are going to want to roster him. Zach Allen has been ridiculously good as of late. We've got George Kirby on the slate. There's enough options that I don't know that Knoll is going to get to be quite this popular, but cash games, I think we should certainly be playing him. And even in tournaments, I'm not too afraid of what the ownership is, particularly for what you said before, Eric, where it's such a good spot. And some of the other pitchers who are high-end guys, some of them are in tougher spots. So Nola is my overall favorite pitcher. Is he going to be the pitcher that ends in the most of your lineups today?
Yeah, he's in 64% of them right now. And I don't really find that. I'm updating a couple of things, mainly what I was doing before the show. This Cardinals lineup is trash. It is not good. It is very bad. Brandon Woodruff is somebody that I wasn't getting to a lot of. I didn't really find a lot of funds to get up to him. He's kind of the underutilized guy in that 10K range. You get Garrett Cole, you get Justin Verlander, and now Brandon Woodruff is a little bit more popular than both of them since I refreshed. So, I mean, Brandon Woodruff is going up my board. He's going up a lot of people's boards because you get that entire Nick Papagiorgio, Ben DeLuzio, or whatever it is at the bottom of the lineup, Alec Burleson, Brendan Donovan. He doesn't strike out a lot there at the top of the lineup, but just not that great of a hitter with a 362 expected slugging. So Brandon Woodruff, he's just a great talented pitcher as well. I'm going to have to pay a lot of attention to where ownership's coming around those guys. Also, did you see Garrett Cole? Did you see the thing Gundacker posted about Garrett Cole chugging champagne last night? Like, do we really think he's going to pitch that deep into it?
So what was that? Did he post that on Twitter?
Yeah, he posted it on Twitter. I'm sure Mike's on the case. Something tells me Mike Lawrence is on the case.
I can multitask. I'm pulling it up while we're going. Yeah, there he is. So
chugging champagne.
Yeah, so here's he's holding. I'm gonna be honest with the breakdown here, though.
Oh my God, here you go. This is like what's the guy on Twitter who does the breakdown? John Boy.
Yeah, this is my version of the Zapruder film. So, all right, if I'm looking at him in this video, he's holding champagne. People are spraying each other with champagne. He's not drinking champagne at any point in this video.
I thought he comes around the corner, giving the guy the hug, and he's chugging champagne in that corner.
Let's see.
Later into the video.
Doesn't look like it to this point. So I'm at like 5 seconds in the video right now.
Keep
There's
playing.
a lot of him.
I broke it down. I'm telling you. There it is. So he gets poured on.
Yeah.
And then this. Oh, he's pouring it like on top of his head.
Yeah.
See, I thought he was like drinking it.
Yeah, I don't think there's any point he drinks in this video. He does a lot of touching other men's chests. He does a lot of grab ass. Drinking champagne is not one of the things he does in this video, though. It's hard to know, right? Like after the slate is over, it's going to seem really obvious. If he pitches terribly, it's going to be like, oh look, Garrett Cole, he was out partying last night. If he pitches well, it's something it's hard for me to put any weight into.
Okay, that's fair. I honestly was watching it at like 7 a.m. this morning or 8 a.m. this morning when I was having coffee, and I'm still having coffee. Caffeinated Eric. That's a good situation. But I thought when he did the like wraparound arm thing that he was drinking it. And now that I just rewatched it, I can see that is not the case. He was just pouring it on top of his head because, I don't know, could have been you and me, Greg. Could have been you and me.
Should have been, according to some. We do have, by the way, a couple of people are asking very important questions to you in our Discord channel right now. First off, from Lucky, is Eric wearing makeup again? It looks like he matches the wall.
No,
he's just pretty. XX Cubs fan, 23XX. At Ehrenberg, Greg, that's myself. Will you ask Eric if he's upset that he cannot roster Mike Lorenzen in a hitter spot today?
See, honestly, funny. That's an old school joke. Here's the other part that's really funny about this. I was able to go on the field at Dodger Stadium. I've got a high up there friend who knows some people. I get some opportunity to do some cool baseball things every once in a while. And he's kind of buddies with Michael Lorenzen. And so I was able to go on the field and go meet him and take that picture. And it had to have been within the week of me saying that he's the best hitting pitcher in baseball without realizing Shohei Ohtani was on his own team when I said it. It was more of like in jest because pretty good WRC plus when he got opportunities as an outfielder in Cincinnati.
Yeah, and by the way, if you guys are not following Eric on Twitter, at Eric Lindquist, if I'm not mistaken, he posted that picture. That was, 3 months ago or so.
Yeah, something like that.
Something that was like, but yeah, if you go follow Eric on Twitter, which you guys should be doing, you can find that picture there. We've got a super chat here from also our guy Eric Traub. Eric, you didn't have to leave us 2 super chats. Could have just asked the question. The other one would have been happy with that. If playing the 3K on DK, would Knoll and Woodruff be the best combo for pitcher? I'm thinking Braves for primary stack. Still contemplating my secondary stack with Yankees in quotes. So Knoll should certainly be one of the pitchers. I don't know that Woodruff is my second overall favorite pitcher on the slate, though. For me, I think my favorite pitching combination is actually Nola and George Kirby. I also like the salary savings we're getting there. But Eric, for you, if you're going any 2 pitchers on DK, what is your favorite 2-man pitching combo?
I mean, I'm getting really weird with Jesus Luzardo, so we'll get to that spot. Okay. I think that's going to be pretty intriguing for me. I would say right now, if you're just talking security, if you're playing in the 3K on DK, you don't have to get that weird. Woodruff has made a drastic change just by the complexion of that St. Louis lineup for me. I feel like he's quote unquote safe. Now, I think I'm more inclined to go Justin Verlander if I'm going to be playing one lineup and it was my own money at this point in time, because I do expect Woodruff, especially in a field that's that sharp, they're seeing the same things we are, where there's no Arenado, there's some absolute nobodies at the back half of the lineup, and you get some opportunities where Woodruff, some of the stuff that's been plaguing him this season has just been giving up. When the hard contact exists, it's been a little bit harder. He's a more fly ball pitcher, 16.8 degree average launch angle, nearly an 89 degree exit velocity on that hard contact. That's a little bit higher above league average. So you get some weaker bats in that lineup. The guy's going to strike people out. He's got a 30% K rate. So even in a spot where some of those guys don't have the highest strikeout rates, you still get Paul DeYoung, Juan Yepez. I would say that it would be either, I mean, Knoll's a lock, but then basically your pick 'em between Verlander and Woodruff.
Yeah. I mean, Woodruff also, typically we don't love rostering pitchers against the Cardinals, particularly left-handed pitchers. Woodruff a righty, so not really concerned here. But yeah, this is a watered down version of the lineup. I still do like getting to George Kirby against the
no
Rangers.
Seager in the lineup that just came out, by the way.
Yeah, so we have, I mean, there's
Huge.
a lot of teams with watered down versions of the lineups. The other thing too is I love George Kirby. I think he's a really good pitcher. I had some concerns that the Mariners were going to start to limit him down the stretch of the season. It's not happening. And here's a main reason why it isn't happening. The Mariners are just not winning games right now, and they've not clinched a playoff spot. So I do think we probably see George Kirby either limited or skipped in the rotation once the Mariners finally clinch that spot. But for now, even with the Orioles struggling to win games a little bit in the second half, or not the second half of the season, but the closing stretch of the season, the Mariners haven't clinched that playoff spot because they've lost something like 7 of their last 10 games. So for now, I think we're going to see George Kirby totally unrestricted against a watered down version of the Rangers lineup as well. And he offers some salary savings.
Yep, perfectly fine. I like him a lot more I was just kind of waiting on Seager. And as soon as he wasn't in that lineup, Kirby's kind of an all systems go guy.
Yeah, also, I'll add in, I don't know what it is now. His strikeout prop this morning opened at 4.5. Very low number for George Kirby against the Rangers now, especially that Seager's out. We'll talk more about bets in a little bit, but if that number is still available, that would make a whole lot of sense to jump on. So we've talked about a lot of the popular pitchers on the slate. If we are going to try to differentiate at all with our lineups, Eric, is there anybody at the high end that you see as a good differentiation play?
Differentiation, I'm just getting a smattering of guys. I mean, Aaron Knoll is such a good play. He's eating up a ton of those. I'm playing only DraftKings tonight, so 63% is the last number I just got in my last crunch. That's probably going to maintain. I like Zach Gallen. This is obviously just a horrendous spot facing Houston at any point in time. He's just a pitcher that I always get to a little bit of, even in difficult matchups, because people just don't give him enough respect. I mean, the books don't give him enough respect when he's pitching on one side. And you're looking at a low total. It's 6 at almost every book now for the under here. So the books obviously feel like Houston is still potent. They've got a 3.7, 3.8 implied run total. But on the other side of that, it's a low total period. And Gallen can definitely have the ability to pitch above it. I'm just getting to a little bit of him because of it. But I mean, there's nobody in like the 9K range that I want to be getting to outside of Nolan in a meaningful way.
Yeah, so for me, if I'm just going contrarian, it's going to be Zach Gallen. This guy has been ridiculous in the second half of the year. And also, his strength of schedule has not been easy. He's had multiple starts recently against the Dodgers. He has started in Coors Field, and he is just shutting down everybody. So these are the recent starts for Zach Gallen. Oh, by the way, also, he went that stretch. How many innings in a row did he go without giving up a run? It was like 58 or something totally ridiculous. But so Zach Gallen's recent starts, last one, on the road against the Dodgers, 8 innings, 13 strikeouts, no walks, 1 run. That is as hard as matchups get on the road in Los Angeles. You also had that matchup in Coors Field, and you could say, oh, park factors. All right, 6 innings, 11 strikeouts, no walks for Gallen in that spot. You have to go, let's see, when's the last time he had given him more than 3 runs in a start? You have to go back to July 8th. That was also a start there against the Rockies.
I love him.
Yeah, he's been ridiculously good. And just because he's had all these matchups, the recent starts for him, at the Dodgers, against the Padres, at the Rockies, so at Coors Field, Brewers, Phillies, and all these teams that, like, these are not walkover offense. I mean, I guess the Rockies are, but totally different animal when it's at Coors Field. He's crushing all of these teams and putting up massive strikeout numbers. So I agree with you. The matchup against the Astros is not ideal. By the way, do we have that? Yeah, we have the lineup. And there's no Jordan in the lineup today as well. So if we're talking about other teams with somewhat watered down versions of lineups, there's no Altuve in the lineup for the Astros today, no Jordan Alvarez. As far as the Houston lineup goes, this is one of the weaker versions of it that they could put out. Gallen's another guy at low ownership. I think he does make sense to be overweight too.
Yeah, I always am on pretty much every slate. Him and Merrill Kelly. I mean, Merrill Kelly does it without the K rate, but Zach Gallen, the K rate's there. He's really, really good. He's never popular. Because he always feels overpriced when you put him next to an Aaron Nola. But that's kind of the reason that you play him. It's not that hard to get over such low percentage. Yeah, it's still a tough spot. I mean, I'm looking at this actual lineup for Houston. You're right. But there's not a ton of strikeouts to have outside of Martin Maldonado, always at the back half of the lineup. Chas McCormick, always the back half of the lineup. But Pena and Mancini, both above 23%. Yeah, I'm going to get to a little bit more here now that I'm finalizing it.
Yeah, and that's what's key to me also. We're just looking at some of these lineups, and this part of the baseball season kind of becomes a little bit NBA-esque in terms of pitchers are going to look better. based on the MLB version of late news, which is just teams playing watered down versions of lineups. Yordan, overall, I think he's fine. He rolled his ankle in the first inning yesterday, stayed in the game. They ended up taking out like the 6th or 7th inning. He's going to be fine long term, but at this point, there's no reason for the Astros to push him at all. But we got a super chat here from our guy, Jorge. So we'll address that and then we'll get back to some of the pitchers. But Jorge is asking us, oh, did you catch something that was funny?
Oh, no, I can only imagine what super chats are going to sound like today. I'm hoping they're just baseball related.
Well, this one is. Jorge
Let's go.
is asking us
my guy.
Best low-owned main stack and best low-owned pitcher on DK. So in terms of low-owned pitchers, I'm going to say Zach Gallen. I mean, I just went over the reasoning for him. He's been ridiculously good even in tough matchups. We got guys out for the Houston Astros in their lineup today. So I'm going to say Zach Gallen. He's also a little bit less expensive than the other top-end guys. Eric, is your answer going to be Gallen? Or I know you mentioned Luzardo, so maybe you want to shout him out. What is your favorite low-owned pitcher on DK?
Yeah, it's going to be Jesus Luzardo. I mean, you're going to get a number of guys that are Mark Ventos, Thomas Nido, Luis Gourmet, Nimmo batting leadoff there. There aren't a ton of strikeouts throughout this Mets lineup in the same way. And now I'm going through the Houston lineup and I'm with you. Again, you never have to tell me twice to play more Zach Gallen, but Jesus Luzardo around a 29% K rate, 289 xWOBA. He's just a really, really good major league pitcher. And, he's got a terrible lineup backing him, but we're just trying to spike some upside here. And I don't see any reason that a guy with a 29% K rate, I would rather go his direction than some of these other low-owned options, like Martin Perez against Seattle. What's the upside there when you face a pretty righty-heavy lineup going up against him there? You get Luzardo against the Mets. It feels like the same spot in a guy who has nearly a 10% better K rate than a guy like Perez. So I'll go Luzardo. I like him as a pivot off of Taijuan Walker, who's more than double the ownership at the moment. That's going to be my call.
All right. So do you understand what's going on with the kayak? Everybody wants to know where your kayak is.
My kayak is fine, but my phone is not. But now I have an iPhone 14. So there you go.
Oh,
Yay.
there you go.
Fancy.
So this is an upgrade for you.
Yeah, let me upgrade you, baby. AT&T Insurance, shout out. Assurance or Assurin, whatever the hell it's called. Good stuff. $250. No, it's insurance for the phone. I was like, I literally dropped my phone in a lake and they're like, awesome, $250 deductible. I'm like, that's outrageous.
Oh, so you have like the idiot insurance too. So I get the insurance where it's like if something malfunctions with the phone, I get a new one. I don't get the insurance where if I'm a fucking idiot, I get a new one. So
I do because I like to live my life. I go outside, unlike some people. I don't know, you.
Or I'm capable of going outside and not dropping my phone in a toilet.
That's not the point, Greg. It's not the point.
Yeah, I don't get idiot insurance for my phone. I don't need to pay for that. I could just take care of my own stuff here. We've also got the other part of the super chat from where he wants to know our favorite stack on DK, and then our favorite low-owned stack. So in terms of overall favorite stack, it's the Braves for me, not just because they come in with the overall top stack odds in our top stack stool, but it's the matchup against Josiah Gray, who has a lot of talent. He generates strikeouts a lot of times when he's on the mound, but he gives up a ton of home runs. And we have seen a bunch of outings this year where Josiah Gray has given up multiple home runs. I'm going to look at his game log right now. If I'm not mistaken, he has more games this year where he's allowed 3 or more homers than he has games where he's allowed 0 homers. Let me see if that still holds true. I knew that
seems bad.
It is. So he allowed no homers in his. So now he has more starts with multiple homers than he has starts with no homers. But either way, a lot of really big homer games where he's allowed homers. So no homers allowed last time out against the Marlins. Although also that was in Miami, one of the parks where it is harder to hit homers. That was the first time he had a start where he had not allowed a home run since June 18th. And over that stretch, he had starts where he allowed 3 homers against the Mariners, 4 against the Phillies, a bunch of other ones with multiple homers. So I like targeting Josiah Gray just because of the when he does get hit, it tends to be a lot of homers, and his strikeout rate has dipped a little bit towards the tail end of the season. What is your favorite stack in terms of if you're playing 150 lineups, the one you have the most exposure to?
Oh, and 150, the one I have the most exposure to right now. I have Seattle is up. Well, no, they're not. That's incorrect. I have Philadelphia going up against Wisniewski. We'll talk about that. I don't know if everything we've seen from him is completely factual. I have Toronto going. Well, no. What is going on with my exposures? This is not good. Hold up. I was too busy acting at the top of the fucking show that I didn't do anything correctly here. Get back to me here in a second, because right now it's just a ton of chalk. And, I might be the chalk donkey once upon a time, but I've since done well in GPPs and I must be known as such. And there needs to be some respect on the name, but not if I give you crappy advice. So my number one here, as I'm refreshing it here, is it's still the Red Sox. See, they're super chalky, but that's just because it's kind of a can't miss spot coming off of a taxed bullpen day yesterday. We'll get there, but I'm still going to play some of them.
All right. So at the high end for me, it's the Braves. In terms of my favorite contrarian stack. All right. So it depends. Let's see. What are we going to...
I have so many of these different stacks at the bottom that are showing up. It is right now for me, Milwaukee is really up there. Going up against Jose Quintana. I don't understand why they're not more popular. I guess it's because it's a 12-game slate and there's a lot of good spots. I guess the Angels are kind of a can't miss spot against Adrian Martinez, by the way, under 4.5 strikeouts. Put that in your pipe and smoke it on Prize Picks. Boston, Atlanta, they're all very, very popular. But like San Francisco, I'm with you probably, where we hate stacking up San Francisco with all of the weird stuff that they do occasionally. It is Jose Urena, though. It's really hard to not have some kind of interest going their direction. So some things to kind of shore up, but I'll have a better answer for you in like three or 5 minutes.
All right. So in terms of my favorite contrarian stack, I'm going to say the White Sox. They're only projected for 2% ownership. And it's not because I like the White Sox offense. That could not be further from the case. It's because I think Josh Whitner is pretty terrible. And if you look at his numbers this year, the 4.2 ERA doesn't look bad on the surface, but the underlying stats, he's a 5.13 expected ERA, a 5.2 FIP, and that has come with a bunch of appearances out of the bullpen. So we have a guy who you just assume is going to be worse as a starter than as a reliever, and he's not generating strikeouts at all, which is always a red flag. He's a 15.5% K rate. The underlying numbers aren't good. He has this 258 BABIP that I think is going to regress. So I like getting to the White Sox, and it has nothing to do with the White Sox, but just because I don't think Josh Whitner belongs at the major league level. His minor league starts this year, he made 5 of them. His ERA, once again, 3.38, not terrible. FIP, though, 5.89 for him in AAA. So I think this is a pitcher who's probably very, very bad. Sub-replacement level, most likely going forward, and I like to attack him just for that reason, kind of regardless of who the opponent is.
Holy shit, I have a lot of Oakland. There you go. Found it. Shout out my boy, the best hitting pitcher in baseball, Michael Lorenzen.
So we have the A's are pretty popular today. They are projected for around 8% ownership, and they have
doesn't matter.
They do have the top value odds on the slate by. Well, it matters in terms of him asking for his favorite contrarian stack, and you're just like, here's a popular team.
Let me see. Oakland, yeah. Well, there's positive leverage going their direction.
How about a team sub 5% owned?
Oh, okay. So now we have exact stipulations according to Greg's rules. It's all about what Greg wants.
Well, he asked for a contrarian team, and you gave him the 5th most popular offense on the slate.
You give him the White Sox. It's hard to beat that one. I hate this Baltimore lineup. It's complete trash, but I'm still going to get to some pieces there too.
Fair enough. Let's get back to the pitchers now. Also, I'll check Discord to see if we've got anything going on in there. No, just the people trolling you from before.
Cool.
But getting back to the pitchers, we've talked about the high-end pitchers, the ones we like, favorite contrarian options. If you're spending down a pitcher today, is there anybody that really stands out to you?
One. Mm-hmm. This is the uncomfortable portion of the program. I have a lot of Jake Odorizzi. Like, it's Washington. It's Washington. He's 5,400. He's stretched out. He's going to pitch. Like, should anybody be 5,400 who's stretched out going up against Washington? No. And he's coming off of 8 earned runs, but like, he's 5,400. And I look at guys like Rich Hill. I'm not going to play him against Baltimore. Jose Urena, I would never play in a million years. Adrian Martinez against the Angels. No, thanks. Michael Lorenzen. No, thanks again. I just think Jake Odorizzi kind of stands out just in terms of matchup. He's got a 64.3% win percentage right now in Fantasy Cruncher. Like, even looking at something like that, 2/3 of the time you're looking at him maybe getting a win bonus. That has to be worth something when you talk about a guy who's 5,400, sub 10%. I have north of 10% on him right now. So that's the cheap guy that I'm getting to the most.
I just find it unnecessary to go really cheap. That was kind of where I'm at. So there are pitchers that are, like I like George Kirby at $8,400. Like I said, I didn't really ask for your opinion that much in depth about George
Gee,
Kirby.
thanks.
It did seem like you agreed with me when we talked about.
Oh,
Kirby
yeah, no. And plus, I was just waiting on the Corey Seager news because as soon as that came out, he's all systems go. I get it. Texas has some better pieces. This Josh Young character, I really like his stuff. He seems like he's going to be a really good bat long term. They've got a number of guys on the back half of the lineup. Like Tavares has been better than expected so far this season. They get a number of lefties in there with like Josh Smith and Cole Calhoun and whomever else there to go with some of those guys. Nate Lowe batting second. But there's still some strikeouts available here. Adolis Garcia, Cole Calhoun himself. Tavares is around 25%. Bubba Thompson batting 931%. Everything kind of checks for George Kirby. Doesn't feel like it's a spot where if he's not giving up some of that hard contact, like he's been a lot better over the second half of the season in that department. He's got a 282 xWOBA and a 25% K rate against a very watered down Texas team without Seager. That's lovely.
Yeah, so that's kind of the cheapest I really like getting exposure to for DK purposes, and we'll talk about Fanduel in a second as well. But when it comes to Jake Odorizzi, I get it. He's cheap. He's pitching against the Nationals. Everybody's finding some success against the Nationals as of late. I just don't find the salary savings necessary. As I'm building some of my lineups here in Cruncher, I'm finding it pretty easy to get to the stacks I want, like the Braves, for instance, and not needing to go all the way down to $5,400 at pitcher. So when you say you're getting a lot of them, like what?
No, I said over 10%. I have 11%.
Oh, okay. All right.
I have 11%. He's the only guy. I said I have over 10%. Okay.
Fair enough.
That's
fair enough. I misunderstood a little bit.
That's okay. I would never. I'm with you where we shouldn't be going up. Like Aaron Nola shows up everywhere for me. Okay. So that's cool. And then it's kind of a rotation between how much of Woodruff I want to get to, how popular he ends up. I think as you move up in stakes, I bet Brandon Woodruff became a lot more popular with that Cardinals lineup. Then you get Garrett Cole in a game that doesn't mean anything. So how do you really weigh that in a very tough matchup, especially for strikeouts against Toronto? And then you kind of look at anybody else. Justin Verlander, Arizona's had a better lineup of late. Are they really going to have him go out there and pitch 95 pitches? No, they're not. So I feel pretty good that these guys are in good enough spots, and it's not too hard with how many 2K bats you get every single day on DraftKings now to make those lineups work with multiple top end pitchers. But Jake Odorizzi just gives you a completely different build, and his opportunity to get a win bonus is better than just about everybody else on the slate, aside from Taijuan Walker, who I'm not really playing all that much. He's probably the one guy we should talk about because we haven't. What are you doing with him?
I don't really have that much interest. So it's a good matchup for him. It's a good matchup for sure against the Marlins. But at the same time, too, $7,900 on DK on FanDuel. He's priced at $8,700. He offers some salary savings off the top guys, but it's not enough for me to need to get there. When you consider there isn't that much strikeout upside there. We've seen a couple of outlier starts for Taijuan Walker where he's put up, good strikeout numbers. There's one, if I'm not mistaken, against the Pirates 2 weeks ago or so. But those starts are far and few between. More often than not, you're getting 3 to 5 strikeouts for Taijuan Walker. I think he's had 3 to 5 strikeouts in all but 5 starts or something like that this season. So it's more of a small slate play for me if I'm ever going to be getting to Taijuan Walker. When I have a lot of options to choose from, it's hard for me to think he's the guy.
Love it. Good. I'm glad we're on board there because he feels like I've been doing this a lot with some of these Mets pitchers lately. That David Peterson day last week where I just played 0% of him at 40%. I should have won all the money. I don't know how. Oh yeah, bats kind of matter to get right. So there's that. But for me, Taijuan Walker just feels like the unnecessary guy where I think there's more upside above him, or I'd rather just punt with an Odorizzi. So that's again, Odorizzi's the one guy at the very bottom that I'm willing to play. I get it. He doesn't have as much upside as the top end guys, obviously, but he's going to give me an extra bat or two. And I think that could be useful on a massive slate like this.
And then talking about some of the pitchers on FanDuel, to be honest, it's not that much different for me than the pitchers that I like over on DK. We've got pretty much all of the ownership is focused on a handful of guys: Cole, Nola, Woodruff, Verlander, and then some ownership going to George Kirby. That accounts for basically all of the pitchers. There is not, Taijuan Walker is 5% owned on FanDuel. So we have Walker, Kirby, Verlander, Woodruff, Nola, Cole. The only pitchers above 5% owned, everybody's 1% owned. Any of the pitchers who are in that 1% range that you like getting to on FanDuel, you think the field is missing out on?
On FanDuel. It's so hard on FanDuel for me to find somebody down there. I mean, Wisniewski's 9K. What are we doing here? That's absurd to me. Josiah Gray, I like his stuff maybe going forward. He's 7,500. That's kind of the one nice thing. I will say Jake Odorizzi, again, sub 1%. He's 6,900 on the FanDuel slate. If you're just talking win bonus and getting all the offenses and all the land into your lineup, you could do worse than 6,900 for Jake Odorizzi. I hate that now, no matter what, I have like 10, 11% of this guy, and now everybody's going to hit me up on Twitter how he does. And it's like, that's not even 9/10 of my night is Jake Odorizzi. But I will say on FanDuel, if you made me play one of these 1% guys, he's probably the guy I click on.
Yeah, I mean, relative to 1% ownership, it's not where I would go. But once again, I think you could certainly make a case for that. For me, if I'm picking out one of these 1% guys on FanDuel, it's going to be Zach Gallen. We talked about the watered down version of the Astros lineup. In terms of the pay up guys, Cole, 13% owned, Nola, 35 on FanDuel, Verlander, 16, Woodruff, 11, getting 1% ownership on Gallen when our projections are just not that much different on him compared to those other top end guys. His odds of being the top scoring pitcher, for instance, 6.2%, Verlander 6.7%, yet Verlander 16% owned compared to 1% for Gallen. That's the large field tournament play, 1% ownership for me, but I like Gallen on DK quite a bit as well. So,
who's the best value play on FanDuel on the slate? Jake Odorizzi. That's weird. Oh, that's cool.
It's just unnecessary to me, though. Cool.
I get it.
Yeah, see, because Eric's just advocating for 100% Jake Odorizzi today.
That's what it was. Yeah. I played him in my one lineup today. You're an idiot.
He's called him the best play in the history of DFS.
Yeah, that's exactly what came out of my mouth.
Yep, any sport combined.
Ever.
Number one.
Yeah.
That's exactly how
this year's Sony Michel.
Eric has him projected for 35 fantasy points. Anything underneath that would be a massive disappointment.
Yeah. Well, on FanDuel, probably 35.
That's sure. The scoring is different over there. At 70 FanDuel points. Any other pitchers you want to talk about? If not, we'll go odd shopper and talk some bets.
I mean, you're going to get guys that could show up in lineups if you're making 150 like us. You're going to get a little bit, like I have 2% Martin Perez, even though I said I don't really like him. I'm not going out of my way to roster him. Wisniewski has that strikeout rate. I just am not completely sold that he's this good. This is just kind of wild. I'm getting to some of these lefties going up against him. I think that makes some sense. Josiah Gray, already talked about him. I think we could probably move on.
All right. If you guys haven't signed up for our tools yet, you want to get access to the Discord channel. If you want to troll Eric 24/7, get access to him. Good news, because we have our premium Discord that you guys get into as part of our membership, which of course comes with all the tools you need to build winning DFS lineups. So, and we're covering multiple sports here as well. So the promo code is MLB Live. If you haven't signed up yet, that is going to get you 50% off your first week of a Stokastic Plus Platinum package. But just because the promo code is MLB Live doesn't mean it only covers baseball. We've got all our football tools also included in our Platinum Pass. So you want to check that out. You want to get access to the Discord for baseball, top stacks tool, top pitchers tool, ownership projections, player projections, all that. And of course, like I said, the other sports we have covered as well. Stop guessing, start winning. Join Stokastic Plus today. Now moving over to Odd Shopper, which easy way to find bets. If nothing else, you want to go over there before you're placing a bet to make sure you're getting the best odds available on anything else. Here's a bet that I like for today, Eric. Is this game about to start? I did this yesterday too, where I had a bet on an early game and I was about to give it out and I realized that it had just started.
Over 7,500 green. Yeah.
All right. So here we go. It did start. All right. So I liked under 3.5 runs in the first 5 innings in the Rays Guardians game, but that game is in the second inning now. So that is going to be off the board. Let's see what other bets look good here. Is there anything you really like for today, Eric?
Yeah, I think I had talked about it earlier. 4.5 strikeouts is the number on Prize Picks for today. It's pretty easy to look over at Odd Shopper too, whether you're playing sportsbooks, Prize Picks, wherever. 4.5 is too high of a number. And I get the Angels have some more strikeouts, but I just don't understand this line whatsoever. Adrian Martinez is not a strikeout kind of guy. He's a 20% strikeout guy with a 367 xWOBA. The Angels are popular. They should be popular. And sure, you get Moniak, if he ends up in that lineup, or Adele, doesn't matter. Both of them around 37% for strikeout rates. Stassi, Trout, both of those guys 28, 30% respectively. But what's been happening a lot lately is they haven't had Stassi out there. They've had Matt Tyson. His K rate, while it looks like 34.8%, it's actually been a lot better in the past in that department. He had a 12.5% K rate last season. It was problematic years before that, but like, I gotta feel as though this Angels team is potent enough. 4.5 is just a very large number for a pitcher. I think is complete trash.
Yeah, no, I think that definitely makes sense. I'm going. So another one early in the day, I said I like George Kirby. His over under was 4.5 strikeouts. It's gone up to 5.5 today. I don't hate the over 5.5 strikeouts for Kirby, considering how good he's been this year and Seager's out of the lineup. But it's hard for me to justify 5.5 when I was able to bet 4.5 earlier in the day. Let's see what else.
George Kirby's at 5 on Prize Picks.
Oh, well, there
That's
we go.
not so
If you
bad.
guys are over on Prize Picks, that makes
There you go.
sense.
I'm putting that together right now. So I've got Adrian Martinez, George Kirby, and also, let's see. Oh, they don't even have a home run prop available on Prize Picks today. How sad. That's been just a print fest.
Yeah. Well, also, I think that some of the lineups probably make it difficult to put out some of those props. Because, like, if you were, people, if you want to go like an Aaron Judge, like who they even put in the Yankees one with Aaron Judge, if you look at that lineup today.
It's true.
So
bad.
I think one that I could get behind is Hayden Wisniewski. His over-under for strikeouts is 4.5. And if you look at his numbers this year, also a guy who's a pretty well-regarded pitching prospect, he's generated strikeouts so far at the big league level. Last 2 starts, by the way, is only 2 big league starts, 7 and 6 strikeouts. It looks like he's fully stretched out, 7 and 6 in the third innings. Looking at the projections ahead for Zips and Steamer, they haven't projected to be a guy who generates some strikeouts. 4.5 is a fairly low number. I don't mind the over on that. Unfortunately, most of the numbers that I like the most don't exist anymore. So all the reason too, if you guys aren't in our betting Discord, you get access to that for free. Go over to Stokastic, use the promo code EL Insider, GE Insider, my initials,
Insider.
Eric's initials. Yep. Either of those will get you a week free access. And we post the bets when we actually like them earlier in the day, because sometimes later in the day, the numbers just aren't there anymore. But let's start talking about some of the stacks for today. And I mentioned the team I like the most today. It's the Braves against Josiah Gray. He just gives up so much hard contact, so many homers. So the Braves are my single entry stack today. I'm going a little bit different at pitcher. I've got a guy like Zach Allen, for instance, I like quite a bit. Another one, George Kirby, another pitcher that I like, although he's not necessarily contrarian, but lesser owned compared to some other pitchers. But the Braves, I think, are the offense that have the highest top stack odds in our top stack tool, and for very good reason. Eric, what stands out to you about offenses?
Yeah, so the recency bias thing of saying Boston being my favorite stack, it's not really recency bias. I think it's more to do with the fact that yesterday, yeah, they put up 13 runs, but you had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 trash relievers from Baltimore. If Boston gets up by a run or two, maybe they put out some of their better closers or their better guys coming out of the pen, but not likely. I bet a lot of these guys pitch on back-to-back days, a little bit of a taxed bullpen there for Baltimore. And I think Boston just really stands out. They are extremely negatively leveraged. And I think that you have to find ways to get different at pitcher when you're going to incorporate them into lineups. But it's a team that it's baseball. Of course they can fail, but I think they're in such a good spot. I think there's still ways that I can piece that lineup together where I'm not going to be pulling my hair to try to get too different. You get Devers, who's 23%, you take him out. Every single other batter is below 15% in that lineup on DraftKings. So I'm skipping Devers in some stacks, getting to some other pieces. Kike goes from batting leadoff to batting 7th. That's dropped his ownership quite a bit. Reese McGuire, I guess, just hits a lot of home runs. Tristan Cassis hits a ton of home runs recently as well. I mean, this kid's been out of his damn mind and is still 2,300 at sub 10%. So I'm going to get to a lot of Boston, that back half of the lineup.
I got a question here in the Discord channel for you specifically. I couldn't answer this. I wouldn't know what to say. Ask Eric if he should be over the field on Sam Burns. He misses you on PGA shows. This is from R. Schindler 14.
Yes, you should. He's going to win the golf tournament. Well, actually, no. I get Sam Burns and JT Poston this week. I am happy as a clam. 1-2. Can we bet the exact 1-2 finish of JT Poston and Sam Burns? I think we can, and I think we should.
I was going to say, if there was more time left in the show, I'll look it up. But I know that is a market that's offered on DK. Those two guys, might have long enough. Like they usually just do it. Are they the favorites in the tournament? I don't know anything.
So I mean, you've got Sam Burns that's always jumping a little bit to the top of the field. I think Russell Henley was actually who was popping up the most. It's gonna be so hard to fade him. He's so good with his irons. But yes, I am going to be playing golf. I miss you guys all on golf too, but there's only so many hours in the day. I got to make sure that between having a successful marriage and trying to have an affair with Greg, that I have enough time to do everything.
and he's doing it all with no phone because he dropped it in the toilet. So we have talked a little bit about stacks before as well. I said my favorite overall team is the Braves. You said you like getting to the Red Sox here, and they are currently projected to be the second most popular team on the slate. The number one most popular team, Adrian Martinez. I know you said you like fading his strikeout prop. The Angels as a team today, 12.6% projected ownership on DK, the most popular team on DK slate and on Fanduel, 14.5% ownership, the most popular Fanduel team. What do you make of the Angels as the chalk of the night?
I can't do it. It's really hard to do. I get it. I hate Adrian Martinez. I took the under of his 4.5 strikeouts. Like, of course, there's a path for him to get 5 strikeouts and still get blown up. But like for me, my investment in that game is primarily going to be on, I did bet the over. I also took the under on the strikeout prop. There's a lot of ways that the Angels score 6 or 7 runs and don't end up as the team that you need here. It's an uncomfortable type fade for me because, it is what it is, but I'm already playing one super chalky offense. And you got to always look at your, like one thing I've tried to do more in MLB DFS over the last month or two is not just look at the individual lineups that I'm putting together, but look at my overall complexion of the card itself. If I'm getting to chalky teams like Atlanta that I want to play, if I'm getting to a chalky team like Boston, that's my favorite to get to, how can I also make way for getting to a team like the Angels? I just don't think that there's enough room on a card or in your entire portfolio of 150 that you should be getting overweight. I'm right now at 3% Angel stacks, and I'm way under on Trout and Ohtani. It's uncomfortable, but it gives me pretty much leverage going every other direction.
Yeah, it's too much ownership for me on a slate of this size. Like 14.5% projected ownership right now over on FanDuel. DK, we've got them at 12.6%. It's the most negatively leveraged team in the top stacks tool by a pretty wide margin. To your point, for sure, an uncomfortable fade. But I do think some of the data we have on the site kind of bears out that they're just picking up too much ownership. 7.3% top stack odds compared to the 12.5 to 14.5% ownership on DK and FanDuel. So I'd prefer to be looking elsewhere. Now, not only have the Red Sox gone off a whole bunch recently, but so have the Orioles in the series against them. These teams are playing in just crazy high-scoring games. One of the reasons that you like getting to Boston is because you do think we're going to see a watered down or at least a tired version of the Orioles bullpen. Could the same go on the other side with Baltimore going up against Rich Hill, who's also in all likelihood not pitching deep into the game, and the Red Sox have exhausted their bullpen lately?
Yeah, I hope so. They've used 7 trash bullpen arms on the other side. For me, it has more to do with I am worried about guys like Nevin getting pitch hit for, Vavra getting pitch hit for, Chirinos could even get pitch hit for in a certain spot, McKenna getting pinch hit for. There's only 5 batters that I'm getting to in a prominent way. Mountcastle, Santander, Hayes, Mateo, or that's 4. Who's the other guy that was in my... Oh, yeah, because I'm shorting Jesus Aguilar. He was going to end up really, really popular. He's 2K flat batting cleanup. If you're playing cash, you can consider him in that spot. I would actually prefer if you could get to Tristan on the other side for 2,300. I would probably go his direction. Cassis, I think straight up, I would rather play him than Jesus Aguilar. But there's enough pieces that I do like from the Baltimore side where I'm going to get very heavily over the field on those guys, but I'm not playing McKenna. I'm not playing Vavra. I'm not playing Nevin. I'm not playing Chirinos. It just feels like there's problems where they could get pinch hit for if need be, because Baltimore is theoretically trying to win this baseball game.
Oh, for sure. They definitely are. By the way,
Adley Rutschman is like, what's the chances that he pinch hits for Chirinos in this spot? Like, I think pretty damn high.
Yeah, it's almost certainly going to happen at some point, I would think.
So don't play those. Like, I just can't play them when they're already 5%. That just feels like super unnecessary. And if you're trying to trim down on a stack in some spots, like there's certain teams like Arizona, I'm just not going to play. Cubs, I'm just not going to play. Another way to do it is figure out those spots where you can just get rid of 5-6% in that stack and get to the core pieces that are not just better hitters, but are the guys we're actually going to see 3-4 at bats.
We have some news here for baseball. one of our favorite pitchers, Eric, not pitching anymore tonight. Matt Manning, scratched. Will Vest will start in his place. I actually think, as far as this goes,
that game started already.
Oh, did it start already? All right, never mind.
Yeah. I was going to say we could have bet against it, but I am positive that
I was going to say this is actually better for the Tigers because Vest is pretty good and it's just a bullpen game. Like bullpen games are usually that's something I've noticed is unless like a Carlos Rodon or Garrett Cole, like one of the top end aces gets scratched, I kind of like betting the against the line movement once it's like bullpen games are just generally better situations unless it's a really shitty pitcher that's going to be starting. Correct. So anyway, no Matt Manning today. But let's go on and talk about some contrarian offenses to get to, because you and I have talked a lot about the popular offenses, but who are the ones that are not picking up ownership that you like getting to?
I'm with you. I think the White Sox. I don't completely hate that. I'll say the Twins going against Johnny Cueto. It's not a pitcher I like very much. It's a little bit of negative leverage, but just 6% ownership share. I think there's enough good hitters. It's not good weather in Minneapolis whatsoever. So there's that. Can we talk about the Dodgers just from a pure talent perspective? They have a 6% top stack percentage. They're fifth most likely to be the top stack on this slate, but sub 3% ownership. As good as Musgrove is, there have been some outings where Joe Musgrove has not been Joe Musgrove-esque, especially in the second half of the season. He's been a lot better of late, but this is a Dodgers offense with over a 4 implied total, getting no ownership. Those are the times that you want to just get to some Dodgers bats. And as I'm going through some of my lineups, I'm around 5, 6, 7% on almost all of those guys.
Yeah, I mean, based on the ownership, the talent, we've got them, where are they at? 2% projected ownership. They're one of the more positively leveraged teams we have in the top stacks tool. The pricing does become a little bit difficult when it comes to the Dodgers, but there are some cheap-ish starting
Not if you play Jake Odorizzi.
Yeah, that's true. The Dodgers, for me, it's not a priority. There's other teams that I like getting to, but if you're playing 150 lineups, I do think they're worth being overweight to the 3% mark on FanDuel or 2% mark on DK. But by comparison, the White Sox, cheaper than the Dodgers also on FanDuel, 1% projected ownership compared to 3% for the Dodgers with the same exact top stack odds, while also, like I said, being at the cheaper price. And then over on DK, it's the same thing, same top stack odds, same ownership, but they're just a lot cheaper. So that's why I really like the White Sox as that contrarian team to get to against Josh Winder. I saw some people bringing up the not the St. Louis Cardinals, the Colorado Rockies against the San Francisco Giants earlier in the day, because Shelby Miller is scheduled to make the start here for the Giants. So here's the thing, though. Shelby Miller is probably not working deep into the game. He's primarily been a reliever this year, even in the minor leagues. So minor leagues, he made 27 appearances for the Giants in the minor leagues, only 1 start, and 16 appearances for the Yankees in the minor leagues. None of them were starts. Shelby Miller was the top prospect and was a top pitching prospect in baseball. I don't know, 15 years ago now or something. It was forever ago. And then a lot of injuries. He was good at one point, but his career got derailed by injuries and then just age. So I know the numbers for him maybe don't look the best in the minor leagues this year, but I only think he's going to pitch 2 innings or so. And with it being a bullpen game and the Rockies offense just generally being shit away from Coors Field, it's not a spot I really like. But do you feel differently?
Nope.
Easy enough. Easy enough. Are you building lineups right now, by the way?
I am. Can you tell?
I can tell. Yeah, I can tell. So if you guys have any questions, throw those in and we'll answer some of those. I'll go over some.
Hey, Gabriel Arias, his first major league homer. That's great. Well done.
You go.
I always enjoy those.
So I like you've got, you're building lineups. Yeah, you're watching baseball.
I am.
You got a lot going on over there, Eric.
Well,
by the way,
I'm a man of the people. I'm just a boy who enjoys sports. There you go.
Just a boy. Not yet a man.
No, you cut out the second part of the sentence. You just stopped it. I'm just a boy.
Not yet a man.
It's not very nice. Not yet a woman. Sorry. It's not good.
All right. So in terms of the other offenses that I like getting to for today, I should also say one that I definitely like to avoid. Here's my least favorite offense on the slate.
I know we're going to say the same one.
New York
San
Yankees.
Francisco. Oh, never mind.
No, the New York Yankees are projected to be chalk today against Mitch White, and look at what their lineup is. The Yankees lineup tonight is, and I know a lot of it. I know a lot of it does. The ownership overall does get inflated because of the amount that goes to Aaron Judge at 16%. But the rest of the lineup, here's the Yankees lineup from top to bottom today. Aaron Judge as Waldo Cabrera, Donaldson, and then we've got Oswaldo Perez. So a lot of Oswaldo's in there. Then it's Bader, Marwin Gonzalez, Higashioka, Castro, and then Hicks. This is a really shitty version of the Yankees lineup, and they're more popular than they normally are. So we got the normal ownership on Judge, but then double-digit ownership to both the Oswaldos, Oswaldo Perez and Oswaldo Peraza, and Oswaldo Cabrera, both project for double-digit ownership. Bader projected for 8% ownership. Higashioka nearly at 10% ownership himself. I don't understand why this team is this popular when it's this bad of a version of the Yankees lineup.
Very fair point. You bring up an interesting point, young man.
All right. So what was yours? What, because you said that we were gonna have the same one.
San Francisco. I hate him. I hate San Francisco today. If they go nuts, I get it. Jose Urena is trash. Also, this ballpark plays up for runs in a way that people don't. It's more like middle of the road this season. Obviously, nobody hits home runs out of San Francisco unless you're juiced up. Hi, Barry Bonds. But I feel pretty good about being below the field on like some of these. I mean, we're seeing double-digit ownership coming in on some of these guys. And we just got this lineup. Let me refresh Cruncher here as we're going. But I can't get behind getting to San Francisco today at this kind of ownership.
Yeah, I mean, just in terms of the reason I dislike the Yankees more is we have them with about 50% less top stack odds, and they're more popular in San Francisco. Then just this lineup looks terrible on paper. Mitch White isn't a pitcher I particularly like, but I think Mitch White is better as a pitcher than these hitters other than Aaron Judge largely are for the Yankees. So too much ownership going to the Yankees. I don't really understand why that's a chalk spot. Eric, how's your lineup building going?
They're done.
Okay. What ended up popping up in your lineups that is what you expected? Anything that popped up for you that's different than what you thought it was before you were building them?
Yeah, so my highest owned pitchers, Aaron Nola, Brandon Woodruff, George Kirby, Jesus Luzardo. So that nothing changed in terms of pitchers. Those were always going to be my four. They're going to continue to be my four. I'm a little worried that maybe they don't just put the gas down in a meaningless baseball game for Garrett Cole. Like maybe they just let him rack it up and go nuts, but like something tells me there might be a little bit of a cap on his ceiling. So I'm going to be a little bit lower going that direction. The only one-off that I'm really getting to from the Yankees is Aaron Judge. No shocker there. That shouldn't surprise anybody. But I am way underneath on the Angels. I mean, nobody on the Angels is showing up in any way, shape, or form for me. Getting to more Brewers than what I was expecting. Tyrone Taylor, a little bit of savings. Hunter Renfroe. Getting to some of those guys that are just lefty killers. Jose Quintana is a pitcher that I've always liked to attack. Luis Urias, another dude who's showing up for me quite a bit. So Milwaukee, I would say, is the one biggest difference I have between before we started the show and now.
Yeah, I could see that being the case for sure. And by the way, we just got the Angels lineup. I was checking it out to make sure, because I know it's going to be chalk, that there wasn't anything weird going on there, that we didn't have any, players getting rested that were important. But most importantly, for people that are playing the chalk there, we've got Mike Trout is in the lineup, Shohei Ohtani's in the lineup, Rengifo leading off. So no kind of shenanigans with that Angels lineup. But just about a minute to go here before we finish, Eric. If you guys haven't done it yet, do us a favor. Like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Let Eric know that you're happy he's back and he's no longer suspended.
Just one day. One day.
Very lengthy suspension. We haven't done a show together for a week. So Aaron Judge.
You missed me that much.
Aaron Judge. Does he hit the homer today? Does he not hit the homer today? Or does he just get walked 5 times again?
Yeah, probably. Well, 4. So yeah, no, he's due for 5 today. I really don't care. I hate the Yankees. I love Aaron Judge just because he's made me a lot of money in the home run props this season over on the old prizepicks.com. But, whatever. I think he might. Cool. He's really good at baseball. It wouldn't shock me.
Let me see. I was checking to see what some of the props were on him just out of curiosity. DraftKings yesterday, they refunded all home run props on Aaron Judge. And people the thing too is I was about to start making fun of people too, because DraftKings has been running these promos where it's like 61% odds boost for Aaron Judge to homer. And, people are messaging me, you guys know he's not going to homer. He paid off the pitchers to walk and we want a refund. So people just have all the none of the pitchers want to be the pitcher who gives up the 61st homer apparently. So just nobody throws him strikes. But yet people are like ridiculous with this on Twitter. He's getting walked by pitchers. DraftKings has nothing to do with it. But I did think that was something of interest that they ended up refunding those bets after it got walked so often yesterday. But Judge today, plus 250 to finally hit the homer. So You're calling for the homer today?
Sure. I really don't care. I have zero care in the entire universe. I will say the one homer I do think you got to play. There's like plus 400 and plus 500s out there for Kyle Schwarber. Unless I'm being just punked, he has over 40 homers this season facing a righty. So let's do that.
That's going to be your official home run pick?
That's my home run pick.
All right. So for me, let me look at my lineups and see what would be most advantageous for me. Who do I want to homer? I would like Ronald Acuna to homer again. Actually, I would like any of these players on the Braves to homer against Josiah Gray. So Ronald Acuna, that is going to be my home run pick. Hit a couple of home runs yesterday. Finally, I think maybe starting to feel a little healthier. Got a day off. Maybe it was an internal team suspension, a la Eric, but some time off for Ronald Acuna, comes back and then gets a game under his belt, hits a couple homers. He's been dealing with that banged up knee. I think he's finally healthy. Ronald Acuna, that's the homer of the day. There we go. Ronald Acuna. There we go. Homer today. He's going to get it done for us.
Miggy. Miguel Cabrera home run. What a time to be alive.
Ooh, Miggy homer. He's got to retire soon, right?
He has 5 homers on the entire season, and I feel like he hasn't been hurt.
Yeah, he's actually been healthy this year.
It's so bad.
That whole lineup stinks. They're awful. Yeah, oh my God, that lineup is terrible. Who's the best hitter on the Tigers?
Heimer Candelario. Heimer Candelario straight up. He had a horrible start to the season, but he's been a lot better.
All right. Nobody wants to hear us talk about how bad the Tigers are. Guys, thank you very much for sticking around. If you haven't done yet, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Other than that, good luck tonight. I'll be back here tomorrow. Eric, maybe, depending on the terms of his suspension, but have a good night, guys. See you tomorrow.